All right, and then so this was just a special order 553. So this it has all the details, and you're basically taking a deposit and then any kind of messaging. But what Jeff is saying is that that printout of what you just saw there, well, he actually did a printout. Let me print this whole deal so you can see. He made one that looks like this. We call it the artwork for this particular client, and they needed it to organize in such a way that it put, you know, we've got their logo on here. We've got it doing that toy chest with any kind of, all the fields that could apply, including that message we want them to paint on there with stars and a dog and all that. So this is one design, but I should show you another one because it can be completely different. I've got one for a firearm shop that needs a signature, and it's got a whole big paragraph of information on there. So, or pictures of the product, you know, it can be how you want this to look as a special order. What he's saying is because it's so designable, we could make it look not like a special order printout, but like an actual purchase order. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah. Right. I mean, so they could print one copy for the customer, then they could drop another copy and fax it right to the vendor.
Or email it to the vendor there.
Or export it and email it. Yeah, fax is kind of dated, but you get where I'm going.
But all of these are different. Like here's you know, there's a repair one, there's Joe's jeans, you know, so it's like and I don't think it's just better overwritten it. Yeah, I sure did. But it can look the way we want. I mean, literally with the shipping, you know, a factor, however we want this to look. So, anyways, those are just so it is something. Well, why don't we put a pin in it and come back?
There's a doc design tool and there's a translation tool. So all that's built in. There's no extra fees. There's no extra charges. I show you how to use them. You can use them. I can use them, whichever.
So Jeff, on this one, like if they're doing that you know, shirt, whatever it is, so the striped black shirt, let's just say, and then they put it can just bring in. I think they like the way, and we should just emulate that. The $199.99. $149.99. They'd be bringing in a blank SKU essentially with a price point, and then they can freeform type in, you know, whatever they want here that they needed in, you know, 5XL, and then that would overwrite this field. There's no way to type in that field, just print over it, is what you're saying, right?
Well, in that situation, we might have a special order screen that doesn't even have the native size field on it, or we could have two screens. Like we can have two tabs in the bottom left corner of that screen, Karen. One could have, you know, be for reordering existing product, and the other one could be for ordering special order items, and we could have a different set of fields on each one.
So I think we would these are all under what's called item notes. How many item note fields are there?
10.
10. Okay, thank you.
I don't think that's. I'm trying to understand myself, Jeff, because I think I'm also maybe
well, right,
if we pull in the price point, I just want to understand to make sure I.
Okay, so hang with me for a second. So we have a generic item that has a department, does not have a vendor. It says special order item at $199.99, right? And then it's got a price of $199.99, and it doesn't have much else. And it's probably a non-inventory item that doesn't even hold quantities. Probably, maybe not though. Maybe we actually receive it with the cost. I don't know yet. But the point is, it's a fairly generic item, right? So in that screen, we wouldn't need the color and we wouldn't need the size field. We would need a quantity, right? And we would need all of the item notes. So one of these item notes is going to say style number. If you're going to print this out and send it to the vendor, it's going to have the item style number, or they're not going to know what you're ordering, right? You're going to need a description. You're going to need a color and a size field. You might need another description. So we can have as many as we want here, right? We have 10. So I guess we can't have more than 10. But I can map those to print over whatever fields we want to print over, and then we can have that spit out in any form we want. We have a doc designer. We can design a customer order to look like a PO enough to make the vendor fill the order and send you the goods, right?
So I think what I hear that they're saying though is if you go to choose edit items, and typically it's, you know, it's going to that grid. Right now they can access a grid. They don't want the cashier to accidentally, you know, order something. Let's say that we're going to that, you know, striped whistle workwear, just to throw in
right,
something
but they're not doing that. They're not editing inventory. These items,
at all. Okay.
check me if I'm wrong, but these items already exist. There's a $149.99 and a $199.99. The price points are there, right?
But how would they know? Like, they want to order a 5XL of this striped short sleeve safety tee. So they want a 5XL. It only comes here in a 4XL.
But
how
Candace,
is it going to stop them?
The price points are already in inventory, right? Earlier we said that Bill, I think you said that the cashier knows what they're going to sell it for, right?
They're choosing by the SKU with the price point in the naming convention. Yeah.
Yep, it's based upon the price and the department, basically.
Right. So those SKUs
So that's
exist.
how they're ordering it now. They pick a department and the price, and that's it.
Right. So if we do that, and that's working, it's not the best, but it's not bad. It's pretty good, pretty ingenious. So if they have those SKUs and they select those, they're not editing those notes here. They're editing them on the special order. They're not affecting inventory. They're not adding SKUs at all.
No, they're never doing that. They're just ordering in a big bucket. They have so much footwear at $49.99. They order whatever it is.
Correct. So all the edits are being made.
The only problem is the buyers might be okay with all that. The only problem is it's not very accurate on the financials.
Well, it's not bad though. So here's the weird part. Okay, you're going to have to receive that into that blank row, right? So when you receive, let's say you've got two items that come in at $199.99. One has a cost of 100. One has a cost of 75. You're gonna average the cost of both those items together, right? You're gonna have two items at $90 or something, right? So it's both bad and good. You're gonna, at the bottom line in that department, you're gonna have the correct cost of goods sold, but the each is not gonna necessarily be accurate if you've got two or three of these in flux. Now, if you have one, and that's all that's being special ordered for that department, which I think is probably 80% of the time, if you've got that many SKUs by that many departments, not every SKU is in use every day, right?
All right.
So if there's none on hand and you receive it, there's no average, right? It's an overwrite. You only got one. So average cost is an overwrite if you're not averaging against anything in inventory. So I'd say more than 50% of the time, I would say maybe 70 or 80% of the time, you are tracking the actual cost of the items being sold. But if you have two of them at a popular price point that have different costs, as you receive them, if they haven't been sold yet, they're going to average cost. Yes, that's what they do.
That's how we run our value reports anyway, is by average cost.
Yeah, it's a good way.
Perfect. Yeah. And so we set these ones up at Keystone, 50% margin and markup, or 100% markup. But the average cost varies, and if they're sitting in inventory, that's what the value report at the end of our month will reflect as the average.
Correct. That's the only really fast and easy way to do it in retail. Now, do you want me to actually turn the nuts and bolts and show you what I'm talking about, or has what I just described to make sense? Because I can show it to you right now.
I think we could also have it set up and ready to show you on the next. We'll have an hour on Monday if that works, and again, I'll record that for you as well. So if you'd rather we set it up and focus on that next time, it's totally up to you though. You guys tell us what's important to see, and if you want to drill down into the grid, or what would you like to do?
Fine. I will send you I'll just send one department, like footwear special order SKUs, and then you can add those to the new items to set up. And then we can go over a special order with one of them. And
is that when
it'll
you're
make sense to us.
The offline inventory as well?
Say that again, the offline inventory.
Yeah.
Tell me, you mean the
RTV inventory. Candace said she sent you a report on it.
Yeah, I was trying to understand what that was, and I wasn't fully grasping what that was in the
report.
It's
like RTV, return to vendor, but we need to manage it by store rather than by, enterprise.
So that copy of the report, this was let's see if this is correct. Maybe this is the inventory. Oh, this is the inventory.
We run the reports by enterprise, but each store has its own offline inventory, or RTV, whatever nomenclature you want to use, determines whether or not that store has it in or off availability for sale. So when we move it
Offline.
in, it's not available for sale. We just call it offline in RMS. Some stores call it RTV, but it's not available for sale. It's not counted as our main saleable inventory. And then if we're
It
using
still has
web or anything like that, it's not going to see it.
it still has a dollar value because basically we have a lot of footwear that has vendor, warranties where the customers
Right,
receive
Doc
their
Martens.
money back on a refund, and we're sending it back, but we send it back in bulk. We don't send it back as they are returned. So they sit there until we have enough to send back, and then we get the credit. So
Right.
it's
Right.
worth the value of the product, the cost value, but
Right.
but it's not actual sellable inventory.
Yeah, the purpose of it is so that when we're looking it up in inventory from other stores or current store or the web, we don't want that to count as sellable inventory. But we do want it available for other purposes like Candace is describing or other needs.
Insurance value.
Yep.
So Jeff, we talked about this
Like
too. We kind of went through.
We just move the inventory of that
another.
store into that bucket.
So we could either have another bucket of inventory and scan things into that so that when you go see it, you can see it as an out of stock inventory. Or Jeff came up with an idea when we talked last that it would be a pretty simple process to do the vouchers, right, Jeff? And I don't know if you're on mute. If you're trying to talk on that. But, okay. So on the voucher, we have a document. So just to back up a second here. These are the core areas of Retail Pro off to the side. I've got them kind of set up so that there's the core inventory that's the big spreadsheet list of all inventory. Purchase orders, we'll dig into that. And auto PO is the computer walking the floor and kicking out suggested purchase orders. And then voucher is probably the most important document because that's our word for what's coming in the back door, and it's a permanent history document, just like selling is, a permanent history out the front door there selling, and then this one brings it in. And it's the same place we do a reverse document to do an RTV, right? So it's our voucher. So you're vouching for what's shown up at the back door for any of the stores, they can receive in themselves, or if we did a return and flipped this document to return, and I'll do that right now. So this is right now it's receiving, but it would be a return, and we can make that big and bold and bigger font there too. In fact, I just want to say again that forgive the screen if you just hate the look of this. It literally could be, I'll start with a blank slate, and Jeff has samples of other designs that he likes with different fonts and colors and no pictures and things that I do that because it sometimes splits off half my screen when I dial people in through phones and different things. So hopefully you're seeing that where we did a return. And then Jeff, maybe you could explain what your idea was behind doing a return to vendor, because I think that's what I heard you say last time, right?
Well, right. So
Is that voucher type, that name, is that a hard-coded name in this software?
no, you could change it. It's everything, every label. There's a translator. You can change any label you see. You can change every word you see. We could make that say, one client wanted it to say receiving. I just changed it everywhere. It's not a big deal. So.
Okay.
Basically, in a nutshell, when you have a return to voucher, I would return it in the system. I would actually take it out of the system, and then we have reports that can see what's pending. So with receivings and with return vouchers, either one, there's a three-step process. It's ordered, it's received, and then it's reconciled. When it's reconciled, the invoice or credit memo information goes in. So there's a point where it's not reconciled completely, in limbo, you know what I mean, or pending, sort of, and I can report on the value of those items, but they're not actually on hand, so they're not showing as available. Nobody could see them, but they would be still out there. Now, at that point, if you're gonna send them all back on one big document, you would have to clean that up because you'd have all these little tiny returns, which you could leave it that way and tag them as such.
Well,
and
as
send
long
them
as
back,
they're
or
tied by store, not the whole company. I mean, that's the thing I've run into other software.
But if I'm in a store and I got 3 items today and I got 1 item tomorrow and I got 3 items tomorrow, and anyway, during the course of a month, I end up with 50 items on 20 documents. If I don't want to send them back on 20 documents, I've got to now clean that up and put them all on one document.
Huh.
I'd have to avoid the 20 documents and then scan them into a bigger document, right? That's what I would have to do.
Okay.
So Jeff, I mean, this is one way. The other way is to just scan stuff into a bucket of inventory, just like a store, and throw it into store two, or call it store. Just like we have a web store bucket, we've got one. There's two of the Willie stores and 9 of the Whistle stores. It's the same thing, right? We'd have a bucket of inventory that we could throw the product into, and then it's out of any usable inventory, and it's in its own store. That might be another way, right?
But that's also consolidating them all to one location, right?
So what would you guys like to see?
What do your other
what
clients
would you
do? I mean, there's
normally most of the clients they process a return voucher. They leave a space there in the note field for the RTV number, the RMA number, RA number, whatever, and they set it on the return shelf, and they wait for they get their auth code. When they get their auth code, they put it in, and they send it off. So, if the vendor's okay with that, you know what I mean, you could actually just have these ready to go and just key in the RA number on it and then print it and put it in the box. And you could have 5 RAs going back all at once in one big box with 5 different sheets. That's what most of my clients do.
Bill, do you know how many at a time we typically send back to a single vendor?
That would be a manager question. Kind of each store might be different, but that would be a store manager question to see how much sits there when it goes back, or if they wait until it gets put or what. I don't even know if they do with RAs or what. I'm sure they must have RAs and some sort of tracking that they send back, right?
The vendor's not gonna, you're not gonna get paid if you don't RA number.
Yeah, you can't send it back in a box and hope to get paid. You got to have something tracking it so you can get credit for it.
Right, there's a process for this, and so normally we go in and we say RA number and space, whatever. We just leave a little space in there so that we can come back and put our RA number in later, right?
Yeah, I think we'd have to have a manager or somebody on. Maybe we can get a manager on. Monday's not a good day because store managers aren't working, but it'd be better just to have a manager on to kind of get a feel for this, to kind of see if this back end process would work for. I know Candace is working on the data end, and I'm kind of working on the front end a little bit, and I haven't even scratched the surface on administrative permissions and some of these other things, but I think we need a store manager on some of these things to kind of clarify, because they'll have their own questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you need somebody in the field that's going to be doing it, right?
Yeah.
And
but I know Candace has some things she's trying to work through on data. So as soon as maybe she gets there in that comfort level, then I think we ought to just take this to the next level and start looking at some of references or whatever. But also get a manager just to kind of ask some questions, because that way we'll kind of know what they're looking for.
Yeah, and while we have Nick on the line too, and I know we were trying to connect the two of you. I'm just remembering you'd asked about TeamViewer type products that you can work with that, I don't think you like that TeamViewer doesn't have elevated permissions, and I made a note of that, where the cashier at the store, was alone, without giving them
TeamViewer doesn't, but Pulseway does.
So
Pulseway and LogMeIn do. Pulseway and LogMeIn, I'd have to pay like $1,200-$1,300 a year. I already use Pulseway.
Pulseway, okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Cool. So I wanted to see
Pulseway, what would happen is if somebody needs to remote in unattended, from your organization, I could just provide them with a domain account they can just use, and then they'd log in, they'd have admin to do what they need on the register, and they'd be done.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a question I know I just wanted to make sure got in front of Jeff and Nick here, just to answer or to respond to on the elevated permissions.
Yeah, because if you look up pulseway.com, you know how to use, I could just provide an account to support or whatever so that they can do what's needed, but it's real easy to use because it has file transfer and everything else.
Okay, gotcha.
Great, perfect.
So there you go. Anything you want to say there, Nick? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's
Have
just
you ever
it's nice
used
to find.
LogMeIn or anything similar to that? I mean, TeamViewer is like is kind of like a show my PC type of thing. But I'm saying the Pulseway and LogMeIns are admin administrator types of programs. You just install a little client on your desktop and it remotes into any computer I share with you in the system.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we use LogMeIn a few times a week. A lot of our clients use that for remote access, and for themselves, and so they'll give us access, or share out their account for us as well. So yeah, we have a lot of experience with that. Pulseway is a new one though. That's cool. It's always nice to see extra programs that we can have in our back pocket in case we ever want to switch from TeamViewer or just use something a little bit different. So.
Well, Pulseway is for us does a lot more things. It gives us a lot more. Well, LogMeIn's catching up, but initially when I had Pulseway, it had a lot more analytics and functions we can run from the back end. But if I want the same in LogMeIn, they charge me a fortune. I mean, on top of it, if I want to run scripts and different things, it's ridiculous. So I've stayed with Pulseway for that reason. And then if I just want one of you folks to log in, it works very similar to what LogMeIn is, and very, very similar to it.
Perfect. Cool.
Okay. So I wrote down that on our next visit, we'll show how the import goes in, how it drops that export into a grid for you. It's not going to create false items, and then we'll go through how to do a special order. We'll get those price points from you there, Candace, and then we'll do a special order. And any other things you want to see on the next? Did I not write? I feel like I'm missing something there.
Tell me a little bit about the not creating false items. I thought that in the matrix it would create them, and we were talking about how we could not make them sellable items.
It actually doesn't create them. So right. So Jeff was telling me that it will not create those items at all that we're importing in, even if it's in the middle of a grid. So for example, just going to we'll just go to a boot or something here just to show you the product. So if you could just go through, and maybe I didn't explain it very well to Jeff either. I just want to make sure I'm conveying it right. But could you explain what you're talking about as far as the limitation right now that you're contending with, and you want to be able to stop someone from ordering a special order with the wrong size if it doesn't come in that 14 wide, and you also want to stop the buyer from being able to order a 14 wide in that boot if there's no such thing, right?
But I do also want to be able to set it up in the future if it eventually comes in that size and width.
If it does,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and I sent you, I just sent you, well, it's probably top of your email right now, an example of, we're discovering what an RMS matrix looks like. Right now we don't use RMS matrix, but we might have to get our website running again.
Right.
With Shopify.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So this is what it looks like, and you can see the sizes that don't have individual actual real SKUs are grayed out. So
okay.
Nobody would be able to actually order those or sell those as a special order. They just don't exist.
Okay, gotcha. So and in the Microsoft Grid, that's right, you guys weren't using their matrix. They do have a matrix. It is just, if you put something in the matrix and it puts in 50 rows of inventory, you can't make a change to it and have it affect all those items again. If I remember, I mean, that was my sticking point with the RMS, which is why I didn't officially get certified there fully at the end, is we just kind of decided not to do that. Anyway, but let me get to the very, there you are. So here's the RMS matrix. I'll make this bigger so everybody can see it. There you go. So gotcha. So you've got, this is the description is carbon or dark khaki. That's the color, description 1. And you've got a pant size, and you've got the length, which is the long 30, or length 30, 32, 34, and so on across the top.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I'll get to something in our system and kind of show you how that works, and we can talk about the grid, because I really want Jeff to dig in on the grid a little bit. So Jeff, did you have any questions about that or no?
No.
Okay. Let me get out of here so I can get back in there. Okay, so going back to like here, let's use this sweatshirt here, for example. So we have a style view button that I just clicked. In the style view, we do have an infinite matrix grid, which is, it's also multi-store grid, so you can see it by location. So here is that, it's a Whistle sweatshirt basically, and I'll just pull it down so we can see a little bit more of the screen. So I've got small to 4XL right here, and it is a multi-store grid, so you can see all locations, and I've got 8 stores set up, but I can even flip the store to the left, which is how I like to see it. So the 000 is the store, or the warehouse in this case, but that could be, it could say Tacoma or TAC or something, or I'm spelling that wrong, actually Tacoma. So 001 is the main store 1, and within each grouping, there's totals. Like right here there's 314 total, and each column is totals right there. So you can see things with quantity in the middle. I can flip my grid to seeing unit cost if I wanted to see unit cost, and I can have different costs for the larger sizes too, which is important. And it can be greater than this one. So different prices, different costs within the same grid. Let me go back to quantity here for a second. And I think I'll flip back to the regular. So mostly 8s everywhere. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And if I wanted to add like a 5XL, I can just edit this and go put in, a different size, a different color. Maybe now it comes in a 5XL. And what you had said is, what if it all of a sudden comes in an extra small? You can go change the original template and just open this and reattach it, and it would throw in the extra small there. So you can add it later, even though it's already been defined in the system. And every time you touch a cell, it's defining that row. So that's how Retail Pro works.
Every time you say this, I get caught up on it. I don't understand what defining that cell means.
Okay, so when she puts a quantity in the field, it writes a SKU. So back in the style view, Karen, do you have the item list mode?
Item list mode. I do. I should have flipped to that. So excuse me. And then now I'm in a different product here, but just to show you what I mean. So if I go to, I'm in the T, I think, but just to show you, here's when I click a button for that product, let me pull it down so you can see it. If I go to item list mode, it puts all those items into inventory right there.
So it writes. Everybody still there? Candace, you still with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
So if it was a defined SKU that was valid, it would say 0 if there was no inventory.
Correct.
Right,
and
so
then if it was not defined, I just have to train the buyers not to add a quantity. Is that right?
Well, but Jeff was saying, Jeff, maybe you answer that one, because like if I put a 0 in here, it defines that medium melon, because I put a 0, but it won't have a large melon. It won't have, these will not be defined. So it's only if you put any character at all in there. When it imported in, there were nothing here, so it didn't put there is no melon, large, extra large, you know what I mean? So when I go to items.
Yeah, so it's really a training. It's a training thing, is to say, hey, buyers, don't order this if it doesn't have
but, in like a men's pant grid, say we had waist across the top and leg length down the side, and those kinds of grids, the bottom left corner, if you're in a size 28 waist, there is no 42 length. That pair of pants doesn't exist. There's patterns at the grids that if buyers are used to buying that product and they're used to looking at the grids, there are cells that just don't make sense, right?
Well, usually. Sometimes they're very color specific with our items. Like some items come in a big and tall and some don't.
Yes, correct.
Some colors, yeah.
So there's no way from a buying point, though, if they have edit rights, they could put a cell in there. They either do or they don't. And there isn't a way for a buyer to stop them. Now, the special order thing, I think we've got a way, and we can make sure that they can't, edit inventory and adjust anything and make changes. But this is if they touch that cell and put in, either a quantity when they're buying or a 0, then they bring it to the document, it's going to put in that large melon then, so it's in there. So unless we can think of a way to stop that, Jeff, I just don't know that I can think of a way.
I don't
put in the large.
when sales associates are ringing something up, would they have those edit rights as well?
No.
Oh, no.
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 Okay. You would want to control who has edit rights in inventory. If the special order SKUs you're using facilitates their ability to special order and take care of the special order needs, then they have no reason to edit inventory at all.
Okay. Bill told me to say thank you to you guys, and he had another call and had to drop off.
That's fine. That's
no
good.
worries. So Jeff, just looking at the Levi grid, and we're going to import some stuff in so you can see your stuff coming in because it's got regular and wide and stuff, but we can grab these templates that are boilerplates and just use them over and over again. You know, you can make them up and name them whatever you want, but here's like a 501. And what Jeff was saying on something like this, there's two different ways that we could either add to the size and do a, you know, 30/30 or 30/31 and going across the top because it's infinite. And then down the left side, you could put colors or stonewash, you know, light blue, whatever the colors are, black. And then, or you could, what was the other way there you're thinking, Jeff, which is maybe putting like this and then putting the color in the description, correct?
Right. So
like
you can
black.
do it on the top. You could have a style number like a 501 or whatever. Let's just pick on that because it's the easiest one to. Okay. You could say 501 blue or 501 stonewash. Then that would break out different grids for the different colors, if that makes sense.
It does. So.
Or like on the size there, I could say 30-30. Then I could say 30-32. That's going to make and then I could do blue, stonewash, black, all the way down the left side, right? But that's going to make a very wide grid.
And what Candace was saying is on, you know, for regular and tall, because they are, you know, any workwear place is going to have big and tall. So they've got regular and tall, and, you know, they've got wide. They have that third element to really play with. And so we just want to talk about the best way and how it's going to organize it. It wouldn't put it it would put it how you organized it here in the matrix, right? So so with whatever scales we develop. So just getting out of there for a second and going to scales, if we go set one up, Jeff, for like a men's boot or something with wide, here's like a men's, I did the UK and the 9 and so forth. So I just did, you know, the different sizes. And I think I saw, is it Doc Martin that does that, where you got to say US 10 or UK 9, or do you guys not do that? Do you not care?
Yeah, we do. I think I gave you some of those as examples. Yeah.
Oh, you did. And Jeff has those, and Nick's working on that too as we speak here. He's kind of playing around with that data, so we can show you on the next one. But you can see that we kind of split the size grid there going across the top, and it can be as much as we want. So if you did, you know, US 9 is a UK 8, or a US 10 is, you know, a UK 9, right? Something like that. So you can keep on going. So this is a boilerplate template that you can just keep on going. Oops, I must have done a duplicate in there. US 10 is, I'm not sure what I did there exactly. So I'm going to we'll just leave it US 10 just to show you something. So we've got all the sizes across the top. Oh, I see. I've got that as the very first one there. And then black, brown, burgundy, camel, and you could put in whatever you want here. So, and then once I save that and say, okay, now that can be one that we use over and over again. So, so we can go in there and it's one that we can grab and just start typing boot, and it would give you all the options there. I think I did men's boot, excuse me. But any questions on that, or?
No, I mean,
So
I just want to see some of ours. I think. What are the character limits for both? I guess size or whatever is across the top columns, and whatever we choose on the left column.
It's 8.
8. It's 8 across the top.
Yep.
So what do you do when a vendor's color name is like stonewashed blue? And that's what you want to appear on the website?
A lot of times people use, there's multiple description fields, 3 and 4, and there's other text fields. You can put that in another field. It's more work though to do that, but you can have a field be the traditional color name, and you can have a field that shows in the grid. You can't, yeah, the large names don't fit in 8 characters. They don't work well in the grid either. So, but I have other clients that do that, that they put what they want to show in the web in another field.
Well, for web gives you map it, and online it could be Scarlett Johansson red, and it can be a big long name. It doesn't matter on the web. And then in Retail Pro, it's red. So what you put on the web is something totally different, and it can be really extensive.
I mean, well, so like we have for there's a pocket T-shirt like Carhartt called the K87, and there's like 100 different colors, and there are multiple reds and multiple browns, in the same color family. So they have to be defined by sort of the vendor color name. So anyway, you're telling me that this attribute on the left field could be defined by something other than the true vendor color name. We would need the vendor color name to be on the purchase orders for sure.
And there's lots of fields there. There's 4 fields that are 30 characters. There's how many use definable fields? Is it 12 or is it 8? It's 8 use definable fields and then 4 auxiliaries. I'm sorry, it's 12 auxiliaries.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm blanking, Jeff. It's
No,
12 auxiliaries, or it's 8 and 4 of what is it?
It's 12. It's 8 auxiliaries and 4 UDFs plus the 2 custom UDFs. So there's 20 total, and there's 14 total of those. There's 20 custom.
Right, and like this Euro was one of my auxiliaries, and I just made up a drop-down list of of sizes, for example, or the UK, or season code. I made up fall, spring, winter. So these are auxiliaries that you could just rename whatever you want, have little drop-down lists. I made up the word age, but you could make up whatever you want. And that's it. So I just put a quantity in every cell there, which of course we could import this into, and it could drop that in. But let's just say you're defining something from the ground up for this Doc Martin safety boot. You're touching everything as far as a cell on each item, and then when I go to my items, it just puts all those in and defines an alternate lookup or a special number that no one has used before. It's basically a unique number in the system. So it's putting in the sizes, but what I was saying is, like, I made up season code, so just having that column there, or I could make up other fields, and I've kind of grabbed them. But so you're talking about putting a different long description in for the color name, or what's your concern there? I guess for putting it on the PO.
I think like with an 8 character limit, there are colors, sizes, and widths that all will fall over that 8 character limit. So I don't know if you have alias locations that could be pulled up in reporting, that would be fine. But I mean, I understand for the matrix if they need to be shorter, but we need to not truncate
to put it like
for the website.
Like we could take description 4 and change that to be something else. Or Jeff, you would know better than I would.
And what does that look like? I'm just wondering the manual process to it versus what's in a setup template that you can actually define there.
Yeah, you're going to be typing that color in or copy and pasting it to a bunch of items. So there's a bit of a manual work there. Now, when you're putting something on the web, you can take data from here and put it on the web. You can actually, there's a mapping function in RDIce, the web integration tool, that lets you say this value here is mapped as this on the web, right? And so there could be a conversion process where you've already put those in, and of course it could then be manually also modified in the integration tool or the back end of the shopping cart, Magento or whatever you're using, right? So there's different levels that you might choose to manage that. But yes, you could put it in here. If you put it in here and you took the time to put it in here, it could be pushed up to the web.
And are you mostly worried about reporting sake, or what's the bigger
No, she's
picture? Like
worried
putting
about
it on a PO?
getting the right name,
No.
the right color on the item, right?
Well, I certainly want the right color on the web, but I also want it on the PO, and I want it in buyer reporting as well. So
Yeah,
I
then
don't care what
we're
it
gonna
looks
want
like
it
in
to
the
be-
matrix, as long as it's like obvious that, you know, if there are 3 different brown colors, you can tell which brown is which. So if I have to truncate the browns to be 8 characters, I could probably do that, as long as there's a different field that actually pulls, you know, the true color name, and that I could report on that true color name, that the web would have that true color name.
Right.
And the only location that that truncated color name would be in the matrix.
The matrix, right. So if you're talking about importing these items, then you could do that much easier, right? You could have the full name in the import and the abbreviated name in the import, and you wouldn't be doing so much copy and pasting.
Right. What fields would they be under though? So you have separate fields set up for.
Well, like Karen's doing right there. She's typing it in description 4. So we would then take the translator and we would change description 4 to say true color name, right, or something a little bit more accurate.
Mm-hmm. And that
And
could
then,
go on a purchase order, and that could go in reporting.
Yes to both. Yes.
And also that could be translated to the web description without manually going back and adding it again in a different import.
Repeat that again. I was fielding a Nick question too.
That same color name, could that be used for the website without me running another import to update that in a different web field?
Right. So when you push something to the web, right, all the primary data fields can go up to the web, right? Yes. And so then there's a mapping process in the web tool on how it gets deployed into the shopping cart that's through the web integration.
Gotcha.
But what she's saying is she doesn't want to have to go change it. You know, let's say it pushes up. Is that what you're saying? Like you don't want, if she wanted to change it to jet black or something, she doesn't.
And he's
there was an
saying
issue.
I could map that.
You could map that through, but you wouldn't. The other thing that I want to make sure we ask, because, and I did ask Kurt Beacon, who does our Shopify webs and web integrations, because they had an issue where they put an item on and pushed it up through the web, and it defined it as like 12 ounce, but they did ounces like in the size, I mean, like it was here 2 ounce, let's say, and then. And I wrote this one down there for you, Jeff. It should be in that list, but that's on the size basically. And then later they thought, well, that's silly to have it break out 2 ounce here, like so they wanted it just in the description field, description 1, to say 2 ounce drink or whatever it was. But the point is they wanted to change it and couldn't, because once it had defined it on the web in that other system, it was unbreakable. They couldn't break out and modify it. And I talked to Kurt, and he said that would be crazy talk. Of course we could change it. That would be, it's just a simple, it's just a simple thing. Yeah.
It was Celerant's matrix that once the width was created in the matrix, you couldn't change it to nothing. It wouldn't accept that you were trying to say that it doesn't have a width. It was like, nope, you're sold. You have a width now, and
lost.
You could change it to OUNCE versus OZ, but you couldn't. The matrix was like solidified. It was there. It was not going away.
So you couldn't type space or something.
No. Well,
no, you couldn't change it all.
Space. I could have probably typed space, but I don't want that, because on the website, on the website, it pulled both size and width. So if I had changed it to space, then the customer would have had to select the space on the web, and that would be dumb.
Weird.
So
dumb, yeah.
But so I guess my question is, like, here, if I said, oh, I no longer have a width, let's say I set up pants as 30 by 34, and one was size and one was width, and then we decided, hey, actually we want to do 30 by 34 as the size and have no width. Can I change that, and will the matrix reflect that change, or is the matrix going to have like blank spots?
You can change any data field at the matrix level or the item level, and it will save it and immediately reflect that, and it should push to the web.
It does. I checked with Kurt too. So there's no limitation where, oh, it's been written, too bad, it has to look that way. And there are so many systems out there that do that, you know, once the item's in inventory, you can't delete it or you can't get rid of it. You have to look at it that way, the weird way that you accidentally saved it. And that's not Retail Pro. That's not our Shopify integration. So Kurt does the Shopify, and he's basically told me, you know, he's happy to show you on a demo too when you guys want to see it.
Yeah.
Just that
Can we add that to Monday?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
totally want to
absolutely.
see
Yeah.
that.
Let me. That's kind of like its own 45-minute gig, but it's really nice. You'll be in fact, I'll just find out his open spots. You'll probably understand that it's because of the contactless situation in the world, and you guys know better than anyone else. You sell the PPE and how the world's gone crazy here, but everybody's trying to get their web online, and so he is a little, you know, sparse with appointments. But I'll find all the open spots, and if we could do it Monday, that would be great. I'll ask him if he could, he can, you know, kind of jump in at the end there and do his part to show you how it pushes and pulls. And it might be 30 minutes. He can make it real short and sweet and show you. Or if you want to keep on going with a deeper demo, he's happy to do that. That's Paul that'll do that.
Yeah, and I mean, not even for just web. I just want to see the matrix reflect a change of going from having a width to not having a width and what that looks like.
I gotcha. Then yeah, we'll just set up that demo for you so you can see real quick.
And I actually, on the ones that I sent you, there's rows 718 to 720 are some, I don't know what brand this is, maybe Yeti. What is this? Yeah, some Yeti items that have, in the size it says 12_ounce. And we could just change one of them to have 12 and then ounce on it. And then
I got it. So,
actually,
yeah.
Yeah,
so you can kind of see how does it push up,
yeah.
and then how do we fix it if we want to make
show
a
me
change.
the fixing.
Yes.
Exactly.
The fixing is the thing you want to see. I got it. So I'll make sure
Exactly.
Paul knows what he's doing, and then that'll be a nice short and sweet demo for him there, just to show you how that works. And we'll give you lots of web references too that are doing the Shopify. And like I said, we worked with Unite U for if you ended up, you know, staying there. We can work with them on the Retail Pro too.
Yeah. I don't know
VTech.
that we're having a tough time with Shopify. I don't know if you guys have any references for any Shopify pros that could help us with just a few questions.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We actually have. We do. So let me ask you, is it on the design, like the website design? Because we've got a group called Web Studios West.
No, it's not the design at all. It's more of the setup process. So Right supports RMS for us right now, and they're helping us set up Shopify, and we kind of gave it to them to help, and they're like, well, we're not pros, so maybe you can help us back, but you research it too. And we're like, we don't have time for this. We're not Shopify pros.
Well, that company, the company that we work with, doesn't just work with Retail Pro, but they do work with the big 5 shopping carts out there, including Shopify and Magento, but they work with a couple of competitors. I don't know how many RMS that they've done. I do have contacts in the RMS world too, though, that, like I told you, that was with NitroCell, not so much with VTech and those guys, but Raphael over at VTech Unite U could help us too, just to get the right person in front of you. So I'll reach out to him, and then I'll reach out to Kurt and Paul, who they do, you know, to other competitors, Counterpoint and some others, and I think they may have had some experience with the RMS, but we'll ask them.
Yeah. Well, and we have something called RMSify that's to help us, is a tool to help us get set up on Shopify and translate everything so it's not so manual. But I guess, I don't know, we're thinking Shopify for the interim. It doesn't seem like it's set up for a company that's so multi-store like us. But maybe it is, and maybe we're just not doing it right. I don't know.
No, I would bet you guys are bigger than their average client for sure. So let me do a little homework for you, see if I can't find someone who could help you. I think I have 3 different places I can look there to see if we can find a kind of a consultant that can help you on that.
Yeah, we're not looking for someone to actually set up the site. We just want someone who's like, hey, I can help you with questions and just charge you by the hour or whatever,
Right, just
not
RMS, RMS / Shopify Savvy is kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had said that Retail Pro is compatible with Shopify, and Magento is another host. Is that right?
Magento is like another shopping cart. So Magento, Shopify, BigCommerce, Amazon, and Woo, those are the big 5 that make up 67% of the whole market. And we tie to all of them. So we have 3 different Shopify integrations, or there's 3 different options out there for Retail Pro and Shopify. So yeah, but I do have, like I say, I've got some folks that I've pulled off of RMS onto Retail Pro, and I do know some of the folks that helped us with that transition. I know some people over at the NitroCell, which was the core, one of the biggest RMS Microsoft partners for web, even above Shopify and UniteU or VTech. So I can reach out to them also and just see if they have some expert that would be willing to help out.
But so you have to. So just regarding that, not talking about Shopify, but you said you have the big 5 that Retail Pro is compatible with, but also compatible with VTech. Are there any other?
VTech? No, VTech it has their own shopping cart. So excuse me. We have a group that's in Beaverton, Oregon, and they'd be happy to come out and present to you guys in person and project on a wall and everything. That's who I'll set you up with. It's Retail Dimensions Inc. It's Paul Duncan and Kurt Beacon, and they will dial you into the system and show you just that. We'll do that 12-ounce, fix kind of a thing. They're going to show that to you. So they have tied in all 5 shopping carts to Retail Pro. They've probably done some RMS, but I know they've done Counterpoint and some others. But we'll check and see if they've had some experience with the RMS too, just to answer questions. So
I'm confused. So I'm just referring to what hosts Retail Pro is compatible with. So we have the big 5, but they're also compatible with VTech. Isn't VTech a host?
No, sorry. Well, yes, they are. So VTech is its own, is a competitor to Retail Dimensions Inc., RDI out of Beaverton. So there are most common company that we've tied in that wrote the bridge tool between Retail Pro and the big 5. And then you've got VTech as a separate company, used to be UniteU. They have their own shopping cart. So they really aren't interested. I think I told you they even put a cap on new business that has to be doing 2 million on the web. So they aren't interested in doing anything except their own.
Yes.
They are compatible with Retail Pro, yes, you bet.
But they're all in-house, like that you're all in their system. They're hosting you. You go through their office, whereas Retail Dimensions lets you host anywhere you want to.
Because there's shopping carts and there's hosting. So shopping cart is the 5 that we're talking about. Those are all shopping carts. Hosting, Retail Dimensions will just give you some hosting companies to work with that are, however much a month. But they don't try and force you to do everything through them. VTech is more of a all eggs in one basket company that wants you to do the hosting and their shopping cart that they wrote, which competes with Shopify and it competes with Magento and Amazon and all these guys. So
that's the benefit between a shopping cart and a host.
The differences between shopping cart and a hosting is, and maybe one of you guys could answer it better than I could on that. I'm not going to answer that well. Jeff,
with VTech, they would have their own servers. They write their own software, so they handle everything. All the way through the process, start to finish, right? So there is no other. Now with a shopping cart, I could host my website on any hosting service that I want to affiliate myself with. And I know at one time, a long time ago, when Shopify was much smaller, we had a client move from them to because their bandwidth wasn't big enough yet. And so they went to Retail Dimensions because then they could host anywhere they want and they could have as much bandwidth as they want to pay for. And then a shopping cart is the software that sits on the back end of your website that gives you backdoor access to modify things, put things on the web, move things around, change the menus, right? All that stuff is all handled in a Magento or a Woo or a BigCommerce or whatever software. Shopify has its own system similar like that.
So
No
I
matter what, you
thought
have to
that
pay.
RDI was connected with the big five. That's not, is that
Well, RDI
inaccurate?
No,
is
no.
an integrator. So they have RDI, is a piece of software that plugs into the back end of Retail Pro that's already existing, that can talk to Magento or talk to BigCommerce, or so their software can talk directly to these other shopping carts, so that basically when your website that's being hosted someplace and has shopping cart software, an order comes in, that order goes right from the shopping cart to RDI sent into Retail Pro, and you can fill it, and then it goes right back up to the web, and the web says, hey, this is shipped.
Okay, so there would be like an RDI fee and then say an Amazon fee, or RDI fee and a Shopify fee, versus VTech would have one fee?
Well, RDIs, you'd buy the integration, you'd own the integration. There may be some tech support fees that you would incur through doing normal tech support, but Karen, I don't think that they're not a subscription service, right?
No, they're not. But so let's say you do the Shopify. It's $7,500. You own it, you bought it, and it's a one-time charge, $7,500. And that's for them to go in and map and say the sizes, take the scale, and they'll put that on your website, and the size goes here and the color goes there, and every field maps over beautifully. They make sure of all that for $7,500. And then it's $2,750 a year, $2,750 a year, gives you all the updates and upgrades, and that's something that they would charge. Divide that by 12. That's the monthly for Retail Dimensions Inc. $2,750 is the total. So I don't have a calculator handy, but that's what you'd be paying with them. And then you do need hosting, which is usually, I always tell people it could be $50 to $100, but I don't know what it would be for your size operation. But there's a hosting charge, and that's for someone to host your website. So there's a few charges, just like, you pay for DSL or something, but there won't be any hidden costs. What we'll do is break out ongoing costs, and Retail Dimensions will be in our pricing. You won't get any hit sideways stuff. So we'll show you the cost when we get there of Retail Pro, all of the ongoing costs for year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. So you'll see it broken out year to year of what you can expect to pay annually.
So regarding site experience, so Shopify seems like, and I could be wrong, we'll see, because we're just planning on it for interim right now, but they seem like we're probably too multi-store for them to host.
I'd say that's a question for Kurt and Paul for sure. And when you do the demo, we will ask them. But they typically, for an operation your size, recommend Magento 2. And that's just my experience with them, 25 years. They've done a couple thousand web integrations for Retail Pro, and they're amazing. But they usually, for a single store mom and pop that needs very template-based, they recommend Woo and Shopify. Those are Woo is like super simple. Shopify is template based, but then they get into, okay, you want your gift cards to buy them online or pick them up in the store, use them in the store, use them online, or they have things like loyalty and gift cards are the two things I hear are the big, to have something deeper, you need to go to Magento 2, and typically a larger multi-store, they're going to go to Magento 2 for you as a shopping cart.
Now, Casey had sent references today. Did you guys have web references, or can we at least see some website, not even references, but like websites that Magento?
That's what Kurt and Paul do is when they start, he goes to, he finds similar operations, and again, they have about 2,000 customers. So I just did a firearms demo because we do WWD, and I'm sure you guys, which is worldwide distributors. So they went to a bunch of clients that do firearms, and they showed those websites and how you've got the FFL firearms number and all this stuff in there. So for you, they would go to outdoor, they'd do workwear, they'd show you similar sites that they've done as far as the integration and show you how it maps, because we're all visual. You want to kind of see the matrix grid and see how it's pulling through. And then they talk about like this shoe, you'd have reductive navigation, for example. So on the website, you could, depending on the shopping cart, you have more features like reductive navigation where you can say, show me all boots, and then you get all boots. show me women's boots, show me size 7.5, and then you're just getting 3 different boots, right, or whatever. So they're really visual with it. They show you that. Then they also show you literally and physically how it pushes the items up through this process end to push it up through to the web store with sizes, colors, so that all of these variables go in, and then how it draws it down in the form of a sales order into Retail Pro and drops it all in, having paid for it, through Authorize.net or Cayenne or one of the credit card processors.
So what would be the benefit of going, like, having Magento? I want to call it a host just because that's in my vocabulary.
It is 2 different things. It's 2 totally different things, and they don't care who you host with. They don't, it's really just a price tag for hosting that, there are hosting companies out there, and they usually, they've thrown out $50 to $100 to me, but I don't know if that means anything anymore. It's been a long time since I heard him say that. But yeah, I would say let's talk to him about that on the meeting on Monday. And I think I will just really see if we can't get him to commit to Monday, maybe going right after us on an appointment. So we'll show you a few things.
Like, what would be the benefit of someone like RDI software with Magento? It sounds like that's what that would be versus VTech.
Yeah. Oh, versus VTech, because VTech would typically want you to use their hosting, their shopping cart, everything, their shopping cart. So I didn't know that they did Shopify. I'm kind of in shock that they did that with Microsoft RMS. I thought that they only have their own shopping cart. Maybe they've, I was going to call Raphael and ask him about that because they've got their own, they built their own. So that's what they typically push folks down. They may have some legacy relationship there with RMS, or maybe have purchased something, something related to RMS Microsoft and are picking up some customers there. I don't know. I'll have to find out more from Raphael.
I mean, we didn't think of, we're not working with VTech at all right now since UniteU is no longer. We just got a message our site is going down today. So we're just trying to get Shopify up and running on our own.
I gotcha. So then, pardon me, I misunderstood. I was thinking that VTech was the ones that were helping you with the Shopify, but it sounds like that's not.
No.
Okay.
So when they purchased UniteU, basically UniteU said, okay, well, or VTech or whoever, I don't even know who they're speaking with, but
right.
Somebody told us basically we're going to be breaking up with you.
Yeah.
So,
I got you. I got you then.
It's a breakup.
So
we would stick with them if we could, but I don't think that VTech wants to work with integrating with RMS. That's my understanding.
They definitely don't. They really are. They've put themselves in another place. I think I told you they gave us notice that they really don't want clients that aren't doing $2 million on the web as a starting point, which is an interesting posture, right? To take right out of the gate that say, that's just cutting off a lot of retailers out there. Anyway, so they are a solution. They do have, James First. They've got some big name clients that Retail Pro has. So they are, they do a good job, and they certainly, I'd say, the customers that we have are happy. They've got I think I've got Worldwide Golf, which is my 100-store chain. They've got a few over there. Jeff and Nick, you guys might know better than me about those bigger clients. If there's anybody that's using the old UniteU, now VTech, and is happy, if you've heard anything. But it's just another option. So we would paint that for you and give you the contacts. They can show you their demo, and but it would be their hosting and their shopping cart, and it's a whole other thing. It's one thing, as opposed to Kurt Beacon and Paul. They map it and then they bow out and support that, and we handhold with them. There's nobody that's going to do finger pointing and say, "Oh, call them," and yeah. So we'd support that, and then, but they don't have this ongoing cost that is a monster cost. It's $27.50 a year. That's it, and that gives you updates and upgrades. So if Shopify breaks or if Magento breaks, as far as the tool, or not the bridge tool, not that it breaks, but it's like they change it, then they change with it. So I don't think I've had anyone say it broke, but just updating it and upgrading it.
Okay. All right. Well. Yeah. And Bill will probably
still there, Karen?
speak more to it.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounded like you cut
out. Did I
Fine. No, we're
okay. Sorry, I've got a headset that Yes, I've got a headset that gets wiggy every now and again, so sorry about that. Um, so I think, so what would, I mean, this is it's a lot to look at all at once, I know, but I really wanted to at least make sure you saw that, how we handle the matrix grid so you can kind of feel confident that, that it's infinite and it's setting that up with sizes going across the top and, the variables.
So
and I think, yeah.
Oh, to get to that individual SKU, you just went to item info. Is that right?
To get to the individual SKU, you mean
Where
items?
you had that
Items
list.
is just a
Yeah.
it's just
how
a
did
toggle.
you do that?
It's a little toggle. It's just a little toggle. It's like style grid and items. It's a toggle right there, and it lets me see the whole list. I like to see it this way with the screen split, but really, the whole thing, for this steel toe boot, I put in a whistle here for this, but it's a Doc Martin, and if I wanted to do like steel toe, it's going to get after. Just to show you real quick, it takes whatever I put in there, and I put a D for the vendor, so it just found this steel toe Doc Martin. So really the toggle is on the top here too. I can always see things lineal, or I can go form view and see it on the top in the matrix and see it this way and kind of see it the whole screen as a form. So I like to split it and kind of have the list on the bottom. You can look at it either way. There's a bunch of ways to kind of see it. But anytime you touch that style grid, that's going to flip you to that matrix.
Okay. Do you guys handle multiple UPCs? So if we had something that was an assorted product and had like 5 different UPCs, is that something that the system can handle?
Yeah, just straight up, yes. Unlimited.
Okay. Unlimited.
And I threw it over here on the side of the screen so we could see it, but like this comes in Doc Martin, Doc Martin Airwear is over there on the far left. But if I also wanted to buy it from, ABC company or whatever and have it at a different cost, this cost on this is $50, but let's say you get it for 45 and it's got a different, unlimited UPC codes can point to the same row of inventory because you can buy it from multiple people sometimes. That's it. And there's other information that we can have a nice big monitor and open this up on the screen so you can see it a little bit better, but it's just data for that particular vendor. And then I save it, and that's, I can have as many of those as I want. I can just keep on scrolling down and say I also get it from.
The UPC code, that's misleading there. That UPC code will only apply to the original item you were highlighted on, Karen. You would normally not edit a UPC code in a style view.
Oh, here, yeah. I know
that's a little wonky. I mean, it's allowing you to do it, but it's not putting it. UPCs are guaranteed unique, right? So it's not putting that UPC on every member of that style, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It would point to that size or the one that whatever I'm highlighted.
Right. So normally you'd go to the item, the assorted item that you have in inventory, right, Candace? And you would then just go to form view and add all the UPCs right there on that assorted row.
Where can I see that?
Go back to the list view or the item view, Karen.
Maybe changes. Yes. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. Just list on the top or.
No.
Here,
just item view. Just regular item view.
Oh, sorry. Let me back out then and bump out of here.
Right. So
right.
if you're doing an assorted, then you're not. You closed the whole thing. All right, so let's open it back up. So the point is, I set up at Niagara Falls, they sold sunglasses on this rack, and the vendor brought down these assorted sunglasses. Some of them were, Wayfair, some were Aviator, whatever. They didn't care. If they didn't sell, the vendor took them back. So there was they had no liability, right? So they sell them. If they don't sell them, they go back to the vendor and they get a different assortment. So they just scanned all the UPCs into one row that said assorted sunglasses, $19.99, right?
Yeah, we have some.
Right. So what?
Right.
Just at random. So
would be one row in inventory. It would be one SKU in inventory that we would go to form view. We would reveal that multi-vendor box, and we would just start scanning UPCs in the UPC column, and we just scan in as many as we need. And then they would all work out of that one SKU. And we wouldn't know what style, what size, what color, whatever, right? We don't care.
There's also like a quick touch button menu that we can set up. Like if so I don't know if that's of interest, but we call it presets. So I make like Jeff set up a ton of sports teams. He set up the Dodgers and the Cardinals and the Padres and a bunch of teams, and they have cell phone fingers or they sell the little keychain, things like that, little tchotchkes. I don't know if you have anything like that, but there is part of the screen can be just a quick touch button menu like that sells $2.99, $3.99, $4.99. So if there's anything that by price point that you wanted to do there, we definitely could do that too. So just out of curiosity, do you have anything like that you don't want to put a tag to that's just simple?
Mine was more, so we have some candy. So say Mamba comes in different flavor packets, but when we order it, it's from Costco, and it just comes in 5 different flavors. So we get it, and then it's like the raspberry, the strawberry, the orange, whatever. So it's got just a bunch of UPCs. But we do have also sunglasses that are under a price point SKU. And we don't actually, the buyers don't order those. The vendor comes in, and he's awesome. This is man, if we could just do this with everything. He looks at what has sold, and then he replenishes them himself.
He just fills you up. Does he go to every store? Does he just go tootle around between every store then and do that for everybody?
I believe that I could be wrong here, but I believe that's accurate. It's awesome.
Wow, that would be nice. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah.
So he just sees. I mean, actually, I have a few clients that have that industry where they just see the hook, see the hooks on the walls or whatever it is, and they go in and just fill you up for you and place your order.
Fill her up. Yep.
Yeah. So he's found the field here. So Jeff, you just clicked on purchasing details, and this is where you'd put in the ABC or whatever, and multi-vendor.
For the scenario we're talking about, you don't need a vendor code, right? You just put in the UPCs only, because you don't buy them from a different vendor, but you have multiple UPCs. So you just scan in all the UPCs that you need. And it just creates all of those can work out. So if you take any one of those and copy it and then go to a receipt, it'll sell that item, right? That's what they do.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Now, UPC is formatted. The ALU field to the right of that is not. So you could use either one of those, depending on what kind of barcode it is. So UPC is going to check the check digit, right? It's going to validate the UPC format, where the ALU is just going to be whatever you scan. So if it's a non-traditional barcode, you can still do it.
What does ALU stand for?
Alternate lookup. So this could be a word like it could be a keyword, like for my flip-flops I put in SF, and for a swimsuit I put in SS, and just a keyword, or like my services I did SER on all of them, and then it brings up this whole list of services. So it could be a word, it could be your old barcode in RMS. So that way it points to that, and you don't have to retag. You don't retag. You just have another lookup.
Okay.
Yeah, usually when we import, that's the old RMS Microsoft, I think. And these guys have done Space Needle and a bunch that are, Microsoft a lot lately, because Microsoft sunset their product and people are kind of scrambling because they're stopping support. I'm sure they're stopping support in 2021. So anyways, I'm trying to think of other things are there things that, while we have Jeff, especially, is there anything you can think of that's multi-store functions that you wanted to see?
Yeah, I mean, can you show me pricing? So let's say, so we have the 2 Willie stores, and those so a couple of things. We have, in the 2 Willie stores, they'll typically be a lower price point and cost, because we usually get the items on closeout. And then, there's what we call price C in RMS, which is the compare at price. And then also for the website, we have a couple different pricing fields too. So we have the regular price. So the web goes by the regular price, and then if an item goes on sale, then there's a web map price. So some of the vendors say, okay, you can, put items on sale, but no more than $5 or no more than $20 or whatever. So the web map price is kind of it catches it at that level, whatever we put in. So it can go on sale like normally when we put items on sale, we put it for Whistle and the web store. And the web store, even if if the regular price is $200 and we put it on sale for $150, but the map price is $175, that pricing field will catch it for the web, so it won't dip below that price, and we won't get reprimanded by the vendors for breaking map.
Yeah, for going off map. So do we have?
You still there, Karen?
So is that just for? Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So is that just for the web, or is that for the store and the web?
Well, so we put the map pricing in for all the stores, but it's really just for the web. It's the brick and mortar.
Okay.
When we break map there, it's because we're allowed to.
Okay, so at the store you can break map because it's a Willie store and it's a discount closeout store.
No. So for Willie's, so in RMS it's worksheets, right? So if I want to put something on sale, then I send worksheets down I'll select all stores, and then I'll take out the 2 Willie stores. That's the easiest way to do it, is just take out the 2 Willie stores, and I send the sale price down to just the Whistle stores. And I put the sale dates in. And I put it in we call the website American. So right now it's AmericanWorkwear.com, but it will be going forward WhistleWorkwear.com. So we do the Whistle stores plus American, put the sale price and the sale date. And if there's a map price in the American store, then it won't dip below that price. Now, the map price we probably put for like all Whistle stores, just because when we set up products, we are typically setting up for Willie's plus American or Whistle. Those are the 2 imports that we do. Whistle plus American or Willie's separately. So Whistle stores, brick and mortar, might have a map price listed, but they at the register break that map price if it's listed on sale for less than that. American does not break that map price online. So really the map price is specifically for American. I can't think of when we would actually use it for Whistle. And we don't put Willie's items on sale ever because they're already discount items.
They're already blown out prices, yeah. So
yeah.
Okay.
So we have
go ahead, Jeff.
up to 200 plus price levels. You can set up as many as you want. That sounds like you need 3 or 4. One for the web, one for map, one for the retail. So we can have
compare it.
Yeah. So you can set those up. That's not a problem. We can map them. There's a field called comparison price. You can map that field in so you can actually see it next to the price on the screen if you want to. Not a problem. Now, the cost issue, I think I heard you said that Willie's store has a different cost than Whistle Workwear.
I think they'd need to be considered a different subsidiary, Jeff.
Well, that's what I was
Did we lose
figure
Ken?
out.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't catch the question. So
let's say you have one cool jacket, and it's $100, and you bought it. Is it different cost for Willie's than Whistle?
Yes, because one of 2 things, or I suppose one of 3 things. So either we're getting it on closeout, or the products are irregular versions, but they still have the same UPC, or maybe there's like just a end of season kind of sale kind of thing. So it could be multiple reasons. Usually it's closeout. That's the number one reason.
Got it.
Or
so So you might get it for $80 or I don't know, $60 for Willie's, and you get it for 100 for Whistle. Is that correct? You could have a different cost, exact same jacket. Is that right? Oops, we lost you. I can't.
Sorry.
That's okay. But it's a different cost because your buyers get some different pricings for irregular or closeouts or end of season, right?
For whatever reason we're getting, it's typically a closeout cost. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a closeout cost. So we do need those two stores. We'd set them up as a separate sub, I think, anyways, Jeff, just for various reasons. But primarily because they've got a different costing, and then that's going to be different price levels, and we just would do everything differently there. So.
Now, are there any items that are carried only on like one side and not the other?
I'm sorry, carried on one side?
Like, so would Whistle carry one item that Willie's wouldn't, and vice versa? Would Willie carry an item that Whistle wouldn't?
No, yeah, there are times where where it's not my favorite when this happens. There are times where there's something that sells really well and we have to have it at Willie's and it's not a closeout item, so maybe we're actually just taking a hit on the margin. That also does happen. So yes, there are, and you'll see in that item setup document that I sent you guys to import our items that you'll see the first color coding rows are Willie's, and then ones that live in both Willie's and Whistle stores, and then ones that below that are just ones that live in only Whistle.
Okay. Only Whistle. Okay.
And that's the thing too, like in Celerant, when we started, when I looked at sales and I was trying to update inventory to stores of what had sold, there was no way of limiting visibility to items at a store level. So somehow a couple of the stores sold items that never should have lived in their system. And that is actually one thing that I will say is awesome about RMS, is that everything goes from the parent HQ headquarters down to each store level. So if I don't want something to ever appear in a store for a sales associate to sell against it mistakenly, I just won't ever send a worksheet down to that store with that item on it. And that's actually, I used to complain about it, like, oh, I got to send all these worksheets down, but it's actually really great.
Well, you'll love that we do that too. Then that's what subsidiaries is, and I kind of clicked on it in the upper left here. Like I have multiple subsidiaries, just like I was telling you, Puma North America. We are the North American subsidiary, so we, you've got just product in the United States for that Puma carries, but maybe they carry, completely different product at different subs. So a subsidiary is like its own company or entity in a sense. Anyway, so it just means that you could say that the same product, these same first 100 rows are at all locations, but after that it's unique to each subsidiary because it's like it's its own company. So you can control a chunk of it if you want to and say these are shared items. But then after that, it's, it's unique, or I do not want this store to even carry that product. So you get to control it all centrally there.
Yeah, I would love to see more about that. Like and can you inactivate products at the store level? Can you?
Well, you could. I don't know. I've never had anybody do that. Usually they're controlling it from the office, but I don't know. We'd have to look at the polling settings, and I'm guessing we could do that.
I don't know.
Well, why would we? Yeah, she doesn't want to. She doesn't want people to do it. You want to keep. So he's thinking of the security levels.
Well, I'm thinking, why would the store inactivate them? I mean, that's usually done by the buyers or the team at the office, right?
Well,
But if she were in that store,
my team's going to be doing a lot of the updates will go through data team. So if buyers send a list and say, hey, these are all done and gone, then we would inactivate them. But what if they were on closeout? And technically, I actually don't care either way. I mean, if it's not feasible, that's fine. But
well, no. So Willie's would have its own subsidiary. So an item could be inactivated in Whistle and not in Willie's, or vice versa.
So will you show a little bit about subsidiaries there, Jeff? Because she wants to see subsidiaries, a markdown, and how to inactivate an item.
Right.
So
well, you only have one right now. So we'd have to build another subsidiary, and we could do that. We could do it without copying any inventory over.
That's okay. I mean, we can build them on the next time. So that when you go to that drop down next time, we'll have another inventory in there. I can just get another bucket in my licensing. It is a licensing thing, but it is like having two separate companies that can have different costs. They can have, completely different rules and security rights. And just think of it as being able to, just like we're Puma North America with their 100 stores in the U.S. and then they're made in Germany, so, or was it England or Germany? I can't believe I just said it. I think it's Germany. So they're based there. So that's where their corporate is, and they've got their stores there. But they have all their own rights. They've got a whole other, it could be a different language, a different tax, whatever. So, like we have Benefit Cosmetics that has international companies in Ireland and all over. So it's different currency, different UBC codes on product. But you could share product too if you'd like. So that's what a sub is, basically a subsidiary.
So that would be, sorry, I hear the word licensing. I'm like, see?
Oh, no, it's not. It's just the same as if you bought a store, it's literally all the same pricing no matter what. It's a bucket of inventory, okay. and it's a user license. That's it. So it's very straightforward. We'll break it all out for you guys, and that's why we were kind of eager to get that out there so you can see. It's got this one-time cost for the licensing. You own it, and then if you want to opt in for the software assurance updates, it's 18% of your value annually. So it's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of hidden anything. In fact, I'd say that's why we break out store 2, 3, 4, 5, and I even show Kurt Beacon, Retail Dimension stuff. There are 2750s in there, just so that you can see the entire picture of if we did web, what would the whole thing cost? So.
Well, go back to the 18% of your value.
So it's there's software assurance that will break out for you that gives you updates and upgrades. But let's say that software is $1,000, you'd pay $180 a year for that if you want to get updates and upgrades for that $1,000 software. So that's
the package. Gotcha. Okay.
It's for updates and upgrades. If you
all the developer is actually charging the fee, and they're the ones that they're just paying to. So basically, when your software assurance is current, then all the upgrades you already paid for those. You get those for free because you already paid.
Right. They're not free. You're paying for them with your $180 basically.
Yes,
so you get updates and upgrades, and then that fuels them to go build a better mousetrap and focus on features and fix bugs and maintenance packs and things like that. So that's their job. But I actually shared the story of these guys throwing a beta product at you where you've got 3 bugs a day you're documenting, and it's just it's shocking for them. I mean that to hear that. I mean, these guys document every now and again. Jeff goes and makes a web tack, or what's it called, Jeff?
Web tack.
A web tack. So he goes and types up, hey, we bumped into a bug. We can't figure it out. Here's the details. And we try and recreate it with Retail Pro. It should be rare, very rare on the core package that's out there. Now, do they give us updates and say, hey, try this? And we try it on a new, a single store first, then multi-store. We beat it up ourselves before we get it out to our customers. And, if we still find bugs and log them, and help them prioritize them. But certainly 3, 4, or 5 bugs a day that you're going through, we would never, ever put someone on a beta version without getting them to sign, hey, I want to be a beta.
They beat me and Bill up, and I think Bill and I are still both recovering. We're both like,
Well, I'm glad you switched. I mean, Microsoft is at least a stable is it going to have, there's no support for it in a while here, but you've got some time then, and I'm just much happier that you're on a product like Microsoft and selling.
We are, yeah. I mean, RMS is actually totally fine. We're just dark on the web, and eventually it's going to go away.
Right.
Totally.
Well, it's for the credit card PCI compliance, they aren't updating other than, they have a separate piece of hardware there for that. But there's really, it's just the support and service is they aren't putting any dollars towards development or fixing bugs or anything. That's just where they're at. But they were a strong.
And it's so great though, because we don't find 3 bugs a day.
We don't worry about it.
We find very rarely do we find a bug, and Wright has been supporting us, and they're pretty awesome. So
where is it? What company is supporting you guys?
It's Wright, RITE.
Oh, I know that. Yes, I know.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're actually trying to help us get Shopify going too, but they're like, well, we're not Shopify pros. We're just trying to learn this for you. So, so they're doing their best to help us. So they're like, you might want to find a specialist for.
So,
yeah.
On the screen, I just wanted to interject that I created the other one, and I've been browsing the damn thing, and it's still loading. But you see here at the top, you've got the 2 different, and so in the other side now, I didn't put any merchandise in the other side yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're absolutely going to be able to control what goes in to each side.
Okay, that's awesome. So here's my question is, if I had something that lived in Whistle, so here's what we do now. So say it lives in Whistle, and then all of a sudden it goes closeout, and one of the buyers says to me, hey, send worksheets down to Willie's, so it lives in Willie's stores now. So can you update the subsidiary at any given time to, could I have a Whistle Willie's both?
Yeah, of course, you never have what you want when you want it. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
It's right below.
What was the last word you said, Kenneth? I missed the last part of what you said. Can you have a Whistles will be,
so
what is it?
If I wanted to live, if it lives in both Whistle and Willie's. But at the same time, the pricing here would not make sense if it was a Whistle Willie's both, because it would only show me one subsidiary.
I gotcha. So you want to be able, well, I think we could just go in and we could set this up for next time too, but we could have one, the same cool jacket. One of them was a closeout, and one of them is just a regular item, and have different costs, different prices, but it's the exact same UPC code in each operation.
Yeah, so and it's not configured in system preferences, so it's messing with me. But you see on the sidebar menu here, right under where it says price level, it says assign items, and I probably need to go play with the settings in system preferences to make this work. But normally you'd click assign items. So you'd highlight an item, you click assign this item to the other store, and it would push the entire item over to the other subsidiary, including what's called the system ID. So the system ID is what connects it. It's a number that's bigger than a UPC code, that's a randomly generated value that flashing is killing me.
That's right. So, but that's what you call worksheets, I think, right? Or did you say worksheets or?
Yeah,
she said worksheets.
I think that's what you meant when you said worksheets. It's saying, let's push this list of items over here. Yeah. We call it list of items. It's just the same exact thing, except it is a couple setup switches in my preferences. If we go there, you can turn on subsidiaries, Jeff, and have the list, share product and stuff. So there's little sections, but we do, we're in 131 countries and 19 languages, and it's really very cool how you can, share what you want to share and make something the top, whatever, the first 100 rows are shared, but everything else is different, or just have everything else different. Or even have the same product but different costing entirely. That's kind of nice too. Anyway, I'm trying to think what he's got here. There's got to be a little.
I'm trying to figure out why. I'm gonna have to go research this because I'm not.
Don't worry about it.
We have active stores in Willie's. We have active stores in Whistle, and yet the regional settings are all like grayed out. So, I just tried it off the cuff there. I just literally went on and flipped it on.
Why don't we we'll set it up. I can play with it and set it up for next time too, so we can kind of show, add an item in each or have the same item in each and push it over and then have a different cost. So you can kind of see what would that look like. I think I want to make sure you see in activating a product and a markdown, because I know you're probably running out of time there because we started it. How much time do you have left, Candace?
Oh, I'm fine. I guess, so my one other question about this would be, when you first set up a product, say the general price is $60, and then I say it's, well, so on an import, I couldn't really designate the stores, correct? I'd have to go in and do a bulk import with price changes to one store if they lived in both subsidiaries.
You mean a markdown, or I'm not sure I know what you mean.
No. Sorry, I'm talking out loud. Thinking out loud. So if I were to set up a product, let's say, and this does happen, so like with these masks that we're getting, for example, for the PPE stuff going on, so maybe we'll get one for $12.99, and we get the same cost for Willie's, but we want to carry it in Willie's too, just because everyone needs them right now. So we'll sell them in Willie's for $9.99, because the compare at price has to be at least 20% off.
Okay.
So what we'll do currently is set them up in a bulk import for new item setup, and we'll send them down to basically all the stores. And then we'll go back in and update the pricing via worksheet to Willie's. So
got it.
On a new item import, I guess my question is, you don't have store level pricing, right?
We do. I mean, we do. So so we could go in and show like how you'd set up this Firefly jacket, for example, and you could do just like you've got a markdown or a compare at. And maybe, Jeff, we could just go show how to, put in let's say we just put in this product. You haven't yet sent it over to the other store, but you could do the markdown that you want. I'm trying to think what the steps would be to push that over, and then do a price adjustment at that location. Because you can have a 20% off, because they have to be at least 20% off for that store, Jeff. Will you just set it up as a different store for the price level and then push that down?
Well, you could have a different price level, and they could have and that might make the most sense. I mean, if you're putting items in and you have a price level for Willie's and then when you push the item over, it carries the Willie's price level at the same time. I mean, it's just extra input when you create the item. But if you're importing, it probably doesn't matter, right?
Well, tell us what the steps would be, because I just want to understand. So like I made up a wholesale price, right? Or I can mark this, price of a wholesale. And then whatever I do, if I do a directed amount, or I do cost plus 10, or I do, subtract 20%, whatever it is, it'll hit this whole price level that's called wholesale. And what Jeff's saying is you could have a price level called Willie's, right? And we could say subtract 20%, or give it a directed amount of, it's the price is $240 here, so maybe for Willie's it would be, $180 or something. So you could have it hit every item, and then you push it down, Jeff, to the other store subsidiary. How would we do that? What would you think?
Well, that's one option. So you could bring in, you could mark it down here, or you could then assign it to Willie's, or you could import it as a regional item with all the prices already in there, and as a regional item it would go to both subsidiaries, or you could import items directly into Willie's and assign them back. We would have to play with the settings and look at the options.
So I just told it to take 20% off. Oh, go ahead. Excuse me.
Oh, can we look at that on Monday when we do the import, to do like one subsidiary and then regional both, and then how to change,
I think,
prices.
Change prices. So we'll just look at the process. So I think that's a good idea, Jeff. Is that okay to set up, like I could set up Willie's, and let's just do it in real life, sort of a thing. Since we've got live software, we'll just do, like, if we put in this cool jacket, and what would be the easiest way, do you think, Jeff, if you had to pick a way to do that, like to do the markdown price level and then push it over and
well,
put now assign item?
I would import it with all the prices. If we're talking about importing, I can import more than one price level at a time. I can import.
Tell me. On a template?
Yeah, in an Excel spreadsheet, I can have one column that's map, and I can have one column that's web, and I could have one column that's retail, and I could have one column that's Willys, and I could import all those in at the same time if I know them.
Could one column be retail Whistle and one column be retail Willys?
Yes. At the bottom of your screen, you see PR:retail. That means that the price level called retail is the active price level right now. That could be changed though. And so different subsidiaries can have different active price levels.
Where are you looking, Jeff, right now?
Right there where you see where it says min max other info, right below the word max. It says PR:retail.
The price level. I see what you're saying. So yeah, and I have these weird ones set up. I'll set up a Willys price level for you because I just went and named these. I named all of these graded ones for somebody who was doing a used clothing store, just to get as an example. But it can be, I've got retail, I have VIP pricing, I have member pricing, I've got employee pricing, and wholesale are my main ones there. But we'll set one up for Willys. Is that how you do it, Jeff?
Like basically map the Willys registers to bring up at different.
Well, the registers would be on sub 2, and then they would be using sub 2 preferences, and the active price level in subsidiary 2 would be Willys, right?
You just flip to it. Literally, you could flip and see all that inventory with those prices right here, because you have the security to do so. So you could go flip to Willys. There's no inventory in there, but we'll have it next time, and then you'll see it has a totally different price level. And I guess what I hear Jeff saying is the easiest way might be to just push it down through an export then. Or maybe we show that on the data she gave us, we can just massage it a little bit to show an import, and then show how would she do that? How would she push it over into that subsidiary, Jeff? Could we do that?
Yeah, we'd have to set it up. We'd have to,
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys
Nick
and like rather than price, just deduct it 20% for Willys pricing or whatever.
It's just a 20% off of whatever the
discount. Or if you just took off $1, just so I could see, took off $1 of the regular price and called that a Willys price.
Oh, I got you. So it's just the price manager is just adjust prices. What I was thinking we were doing, and this is just me off the top of my head, was I would say, you subtract, an amount or $1, and if I just said $1, it's like that, and it's going to go do it. So these are mostly 176, and it's just going to take them down to 135 and 191 or whatever. Oops, what did I do there? What's that?
Some items are listed at, the minimum is 20% off, but it just depends on what discount we get.
Okay. So, and sorry, I think I did a multiplier on there instead, but you can multiply, you can, what is it there? You've got a directed amount, so I can say adjust my prices. I can add, subtract, multiply, divide, or I can say a directed amount. If I wanted all of these to be marked down to 179, I can put that in there as markdown amount, and then it would just hit, the markdown amount for everything as a price point. So you could say all my t-shirts, you know what I mean? Like I could say all my t-shirts that are $10.99, I'm going to make them all $9.99 today, even if they're across different styles. Because I just put in cool, but I could have put in t-shirt as a department, and it would, t-shirts with prices of 10 to 20 bucks, bring them all in, mark them all down, do whatever I want to do to them. And then I was thinking we'd push the items down, and then we even have a button where you could flip it back on this screen. So you could do your Willy pricing and push it down here, do the import once here, Jeff. I don't know, I'm sorry, I should leave this to you, but I was saying you could just click and push this over to Willys. But basically you've got your Willys and your Whistle right here. I guess we need to set up the data to have different price levels. Import that in, Jeff, and then what would be the next thing to how would we get it over to Willys into that?
Sorry, real quick to interject here, are these markdown prices like permanent markdowns?
Oh, sorry, why don't I finish what we're doing there? Yeah, so it's at 179. So we'd go say, okay, we just adjusted the prices. This lets you see it in these columns. Like it went from 220 to, I said I want 179. Then you'd say, let's update that markdown. There's a field that says update it. When I click on that, it lets me choose like, okay, do you want to do it right this minute? When I say now, the next one we ring up at Whistle, because I'm in Whistle's inventory, next one we ring up is going to be at 179. If I say let's plan it, and it lets you say, okay, I want you to hit my retail price level, but you could choose Whistle, you could choose any price level, employee, VIP, whatever, and you can say I want to do that on the 24th, and I want to restore it on the 25th, or you can leave it as a hard markdown too. But if you wanted to restore it and just have it do a sale, like turn on and off, you could do that too. I think you would make it a hard markdown, but right? Jeff, is that right? Oh, I feel it. Did we
Sorry.
lose Jeff?
No. I think
That's
that
okay.
was.
Did we lose Candace? Did I lose you, Candace?
You can hear me, right?
No, I can hear you now. Yep, I just couldn't hear. I think we lost Candace. Let me see if she's still on here. Hang on a second.
No, I still see her. And I see her microphone,
There
but
she is. Okay. All right. Well, so I think, is there a way we could show that next time, Jeff, too? And just because I really think this is important for how easy they can, having subsidiaries is huge, and being able to do Whistle and Willie right here and just flip to either, I think that's going to be a big deal for them. And then what is the process? Oh, is that Candace?
Yeah, sorry, my phone dropped out, I think.
No
Sorry
worries.
about
No worries. No problem. We were just saying, I think we just need to really show it next time, like to have, to be able to do that markdown. So hopefully you understood we do, you could go here and say, take effect and update that markdown right now, or plan it and organize it. Yeah. And then you can have it hit.
And then you can filter by
price
size too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, the filter is everything. In fact, the filter is everywhere. And one thing we showed the last workwear shop we were showing, Jeff and I, they loved that you could set up filters and then name them and save them. So you don't have to go fill in, Patagonia, you know what I mean? Like you'd name it and then it would have a search of things of this to that, or all the fields that I made up, like players and stuff. I mean, you could, anything that you do all the time, it's kind of nice. You could go in and see those filters, but that filtered view lets you have anything. So let's say that you wanted to filter on everything that is vendor, cool, and you just want to do anything with the word jacket, in there. I mean, it can go find anything and just go hone in on it for you to mark that down. So I still got, the only thing that I got there was jacket, but anyways, I happen to already be on it. But then you've got the short filter on the top that is designable too. So if you wanted to do it, like you said, by size and say, everything that is
big and tall.
Or, yeah, big and tall or extra, small.
Oh yeah, can you do it on width? Are you able to do it on width?
Anything if you've got a separate field here, like, I like to show this. Let me just get rid of this, like description 3. Let's get rid of that and say you wanted to do, remember I was talking about Euro and UK and stuff. So I made up those fields, but there's width. So I made up width, and I just have to have it on my screen and say a width of this to this, or I could do a, got Euro and, what were the sizes I've got on there? There's like, I put height and, weight. I've got all sorts of weird fields here. Anyways, you put something in and you save it, and then that's a searchable field of this to that, or, whatever it is. So yeah, I put in a size, but it's whatever you took the time to put in, we could draw out, like season code here. I don't know if I had season on there. Anyway, this item lookup, I like this one because, Jeff, this one right here with the item lookup, how many fields does that usually bring up? So if I do like jacket, it searches it in multiple areas, right? So it'll find it in
item lookup
description 1.
So item lookup is the lookup field on the transactional screen. So multiple UPCs, multiple ALUs. If you're doing a search in here for jacket, you've got to use wildcards to indicate that you're doing a fractional search.
Okay, so I think there was like a fringe item or something, but it looks in multiple fields.
You'd have to say asterisk fringe, right? There you go.
I got you. That's right. So if I have something that's got fringe on it and it finds, so here's like, see how fringe is in my style name, which is a weird thing, right? So it looked that, and that it qualified, and then it found fringe in my Patagonia jacket with fringe there, And
what is the
it
item lookup field?
Well, say it again. So item lookup is like
that?
it just looks at multiple fields on your screen here. So it sees any keyword like I found, like I said, fringe. See, it brought it in because it's got FRIED
right.
t-shirt.
So that's,
you know what I mean? So
that's like the wild card in the wild card.
Wild card.
Field?
Yes, the wild card. So if it's like 20 fringe costume,
wait a second,
or
though. The wild card function is meant for the point of sale. So if I put a wild card t-shirt wild card, it would find every t-shirt and bring up a menu and let me select one to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a side benefit here.
I like this as a little side benefit, yeah.
That item lookup field pulls from anywhere.
Well, no, it pulls in the active lookup field. So UPC, ALU, description 1, description 2, serial numbers if you have them. It doesn't look in vendor code, for instance.
Okay.
It doesn't do vendor, so it's just some fields, but it does have a big grouping of fields that it grabs from, which is kind of nice.
How do I know what are active fields?
With the dot.
In system preferences, there's a menu of your lookup fields that you put above the line and allow as a lookup, right? So if you could say, like for instance, I have clients that say I'm putting my style number in description 1, and sometimes my style number conflicts with my internal SKUs, and I don't want to do a lookup in description 1. I only want it to look up in my SKU field because I don't want to deal with the conflict. So we just turn it off.
So you can change what the item lookup is looking for?
Yes, because that's putting things above a bar, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Put above a bar. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's like it's in preferences, and we could go show you. It's just pretty straightforward, quick place to go look. So if you go options, and we could get you in here to kind of just play around and beat it up here too, so you can really just see for yourself. But there's system preferences. Workstation is like setting up printers and things like that, but system preferences is where you kind of live and breathe with Jeff for the first 4 to 6 hours of your life with us, and we do them in 2-hour blocks. So you don't go crazy, but going in and everything, like there's local, you're setting up currencies and all these things. I mean, this is the whole deal. And Jeff, whereabouts would it be if I did local preferences and then
documents up.
And then there you go. So documents and then general, and then it's putting things above the So see how, like, you don't care about lot numbers. That's more like for pharmaceuticals, for my feed stores, and serial numbers. I don't think you even care about that. Although, if you sold,
you can start
certain products might have serial numbers. That's true. I mean, so, but for some companies, that's a big deal, obviously, to do a quick search on a handgun or a kayak or whatever. But you can see, you put the fields above description 1, description 2, item number, ALU, which is that random. That's the field for the old UPC code for RMS. Typically, I would think we'd dump that in there so that you don't have to retag the stores. And then the UPC code. So it's just all those are the fields. It looks like that's all there is. There's only serial number and lot number. Although we could repurpose those and name it something else. You don't have to use lot number for lot number. If you had a different number you wanted to search by, we could do that. We could make it something else.
Anyway. That would be silly. You have multi-ALU would be a better way to do that.
Okay.
Lot number, you'd have to set and configure it up and receive it in lot numbers, and oh my God, it's a pain in the ass.
Okay, ignore me.
That's
why I have Jeff on the line. Jeff's like the real, yeah. Well, Jeff's the real life guy, so I'm the one who thinks I know, and then he comes in and he really knows because he's got the real life under his belt here. So anyway, that was where that
question for you guys. The matrix SKUs that we were talking about, so if they're not defined, then they won't show up on reporting. Is that true?
If they're, what do you mean, not assigned? Do you mean
not defined? Defined.
So
I'm not following yet.
That's not true. Like she wants to know, like, if you import one in and it's small, medium, large, all the way up to 6XL, and you don't have that defined in our where you go make a style, called small to 6XL, and she's importing one in, and if it's not there as our templates, will it still come in?
Yeah,
and the answer is
no. So it would create it in that circumstance, I'm assuming. I mean, not defined as in, say it's like a color edition that doesn't come in the 6XL, that's already in the other colors of that product. So let's
Right,
say the
that's
product
not
comes
going to
in.
define it. It would
Well,
not
so
define it.
then the matrix would have a null value there. The matrix would show for that color, the whole row would be, or the size that is, if the 6X is not available
Would be
in
blank.
pink, it would be just null, right? Whereas if the blue one is available, but you don't have any, it would be a 0, right?
Right, because it's not defined, right? So the new one that I've set up, I didn't assign the 6XL, so it's not defined unless a buyer tries to order it, right? But hopefully they won't, because I would teach them that don't touch the blank cells unless you talk to me first. I need to set up
Right.
a
I mean,
UPC,
they need to understand. I mean, if they're buyers, I mean, most of the time when I'm talking to buyers, they know their area, right? If they're a garment buyer, they know what a style is. They know how to navigate a style most of the time.
It's just different colors sometimes come in different sizes. That's the only thing. So Carhartt specifically comes in, some of them come in extended sizing, whereas other colors don't. But so anyway, what my question is,
They would look like that.
if I set up, you're right. So for these blank ones here that are not defined because nobody has set them up intentionally and no buyers have accidentally plugged in a number to try to order them, then my question is, do they still show up on reporting, those blank sizes?
No.
So
they're non-existent. No, not at all.
Okay. They're not really a SKU. They're not really a thing. No. And then what about if I were to inactivate? Let's say another color, let's say that melon color no longer comes in a small that you're on. So
will you show
inactivate?
Jeff, just go through the steps of inactivating, because it's a column we add, or is it
No. So
by style?
okay. So here's the thing. Let's talk about inactivating now. So let's just take an item, whatever. The inactivate, you just click inactivate, right? Say, are you sure? Yes. Okay, that item's gone. Now,
right, and her previous.
I could show
the
inactive items, and so now what we're missing here in the screen design is we're missing the designation that tells you that it's an inactive item. And usually you want one screen that has that mark right here, this one right here. Like I like to see it usually on my first screen, but it could be any screen, doesn't really matter, right? So if I put this in here like that, then if I scroll to the left here,
there
you see this one's inactive, right? So I could.
So what does inactive mean exactly? Like it wouldn't show up in reports?
It's gone. No. In reports, there's a mark that says, do you want to allow inactive in or not? So let's say we're reporting on hand and sales, and I don't want to see the inactive on hands because they don't have one. But if I exclude the inactive items, I exclude them from both on hand and sales. Now they sold last year, so because they sold last year, they would have been part of last year's total. But if I exclude them, then that's going to bring the sales down for last year. Now, if I'm just looking at items to reorder, I don't really care what the total sales were for last year. I just care what that item sold last year, right? So I don't care. Maybe I want to exclude them.
Can you bulk inactivate things like
that's
not
called
that
clean
you
house.
need to?
That's called.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was trying to think of us by style, like having that active button on a style grid. You know what I mean, or not on a when I'm looking at a matrix, to inactivate the whole style at a time. But clean house is the way to go, right? So could you talk about clean house a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So and Candace, you're still with us, right?
Did we lose you? Oh, no, she's there.
Okay. So clean house is a tool used to retire a product, right? That's what it does. So in here, everything in this screen that pops in here is eligible to be inactivated or to be marked, shall we say. Now, if an item is on hand or if it's on order, it's not eligible. Does that make sense?
If it's on hand?
Yeah.
Oh,
you can't,
meaning you got a quantity.
Right.
You have a quantity.
You can't delete
right.
colors. You can delete dead
Okay.
SKUs, but if they got an on hand, then they got dollars. That's the accounting
Right,
people are going to
that on
freak
hand.
out if you just make that vanish into thin air. So this
And
tool only sees eligible items. So you can't delete it if it's on order. If it's coming in next week, you can't delete it. You can't get rid of the SKU.
oops. So and so you've got columns here. I've got columns for first received date, last received, last sold, discontinued date, and these are things that you could, you know, go put in. If you did a discontinued on an item, then when a buyer goes to buy it, they can't. It doesn't allow them to buy it, right? So Jeff, would that work for?
No, that's true. There's an unorderable mark and there's a discontinued date. I prefer the unorderable mark, but either one would restrict the buyer from buying the item, correct?
That would be what we're thinking of then for restricting the buyers from buying some random weird thing, maybe importing them in. And what the other company was doing is kind of like our clean house that marks mass product all at once. Is there a way to mark as inorderable for mass product that you filter on clean house? Because that would do it for all those items that are not real items. You know what I mean? Like the wide 14 boot that, or the melon that you can't get in a 3XL.
Okay,
in melon.
in order to mark it as unorderable, it would have to exist.
I know. I'm saying that was their solution. Is they brought them
exist.
in. They brought them in because they don't do what we do, which is it's not an item. You know, it doesn't get to come in unless it's a real item. So they didn't have that feature. They brought everything in, and their solution for Candace was to say, sure, you can bulk and activate these things, basically. And for us, it would be making it non-orderable. So it actually would solve the problem, though, I think, if we brought things in, even if they weren't real items, and then we're able to filter on what's not real, see it here, and then mark it as non-orderable. Right?
Yeah, if I can look at the UPC and go, oh, it doesn't have one, because I can assign even a bogus UPC to something. That's what we were.
It gets a
You wouldn't
SKU.
have to. Yeah.
I mean,
do you know what I'm saying, Jeff? I don't want to make it even more confusing because I bet we have a couple ways to handle it. But anyways, but what are your thoughts there?
I probably wouldn't bring the SKU in. It's just extra clutter. I would think I would teach the buyers to not order things that don't exist and create random SKUs myself. That's what I've always done. But if it became a problem, and you got buyers ordering melon when there shouldn't be a melon size 4XL, then somebody's got to manage that. So somebody's got to import all those items and manage it.
Yeah,
I got you.
I think if it's null and there's not a 0, then the buyers can learn to not put quantities in that field unless they say, hey, Candace, this is now a legit SKU. Can you add a UPC to it? I think that would be fine. I just wouldn't want the sales associates to be able to place.
That would be out.
I just thought of one other cool thing that might, and Jeff, tell me if this is crazy off the wall, but you know how we can make different colors for things? Like right now, I just let my background color in that grid be gray, but couldn't I make it red or something so that if there's nothing there, then it would be a bright red, so that it'd be like just an extra hands off.
Yeah, do not.
Right.
Don't touch, no touchy.
Right. Something like a color alert would be nice. I mean, even that little thing, because we can do coloring that way on the screen, but maybe the inactive rested button for the grid. Do you know what I'm saying, Jeff?
Yeah,
I'm
think
sorry. I'm throwing all these weird.
You're into the weird. So let's see. Top menu, side menu.
I like it. I like it. Red. Don't touch.
Next color for.
I mean, even if it was just in the resting stage of, you know, that, because Retail Pro does let you do kind of some cool colorizations. And Jeff's I test him all the time with the creative.
We can change a lot, but we can't. I don't think there's any access to the background of the grid. So I don't know of any way to change the background color in a grid. I could change the alternating color here on the screen as it pops in here, and I could make it really painful. Trust me on that one. we
No,
don't
well,
usually
then
change.
don't worry about it.
see
That light
fluorescent
yellow
plus
is
red.
pretty
Yeah,
friendly.
yeah.
We like
I
this.
see when you highlight it. Yeah, you highlight it and it's blue
We
or
can't
whatever. You
change
get
the
to change
highlighter
the
color.
colors.
We could change the white and the yellow in the background. That's a preference I just looked at. But I don't think there's any preference for this. Now, that being said, it might be tied, as many things in Retail Pro, there, like one preference is tied to another, for instance. So it might be that the that this white here is tied to the primary color, which we could find out actually pretty fast.
Well, if it's the resting, like I say, the resting color, like some areas of the system, you can really go crazy with the coloring.
Sometimes you just got to jump in, right, and swim around and see see what it does.
I don't want to. I don't. But I would hate to look at red anywhere else than other than the grid. So if it's not specific to that area, I think that would drive me crazy to see bright red.
Be careful. You'd have to be very careful. So that preference is down here in appearance, and so right here is the two colors. So I'm wondering. So it's on window. We all see that it's on window, right? So if I change it to a different color.
Wait, I saw grid. Go up there because there's grid is in there. Go scroll down a little bit. Sorry. I saw menu and active caption button. I thought I saw grid in there. Caption. Those are just the colors and I guess background.
Right, but see, the thing is, what you got to be aware of here is that when you see grid or when you see button or active caption, you're talking about Windows schema colors.
Okay.
Not Retail Pro colors. It's reading these out of Windows. And I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off with be careful what you ask for.
Okay. I'm just thinking. But if we wanted to, like, set this color thing aside, but if we wanted to, you could. I mean, I think that the oh my goodness, yeah, that's pretty bright. But I see what you're saying. So it's really just there. Then it's not.
So the question is now: does that color drop into the style grid, which I don't know. I've never actually changed it to like a color. Believe me, fuchsia is worse. That's not that bad. The cyan's actually almost livable.
But I'm just wondering. No, it doesn't pull anything there. So if you right click here to go change this matrix, there's nothing that would let you change the matrix here.
You can't change the bottom of the grid. No, you can change the top. The top is very changeable. We could totally go crazy
color
on
background,
that.
Yeah. That's what made me
think
I believe you can get.
I don't think you can get. I mean, you could try. Right clicking there. But that just goes to your. That's just. Now you're in the top. Though. Yeah.
But there's nothing to touch in the bottom. Yeah. So it's not designable. I mean, these kind of backgrounds are designable, so you could go crazy with a scale of a grid. Different colors and things here. But
you can put a zebra background on there if you want.
Right. Anyways, it's kind of changing it there, but
giraffe. I want giraffe.
Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what
you actually could put a picture in the background there, but anyways, I won't say this.
Do this one here. Do the one save changes cancel. Watch. Do this one over here. So where's it? All right, a boot. All right.
Boots background.
Man.
Oh my,
nice.
That's crazy. Yeah,
you
so
can
you
absolutely do whatever you want. I mean,
but if the grid, I wish the grid was something we could do, but we can't. That's untouchable, so we're kind of stuck there. I would not save. Save changes. No, just get out of there. Cancel all and scoot out. I like my teal color.
You don't want that. You don't want to do that periwinkle there. I don't know. It's a good color.
It's not bad. But for where you were at there, Jeff, just so that I'm clear, if to talk about Clean House looks at things like purchase orders. Oh, please, yeah, that'll drive me nutty there. That's too contrasty there. But I already have people say my screens are crazy out there because I do go throw pictures around too much and stuff just because I hate blank space on my screens. But and it's only because, like I say, I dial people in there. But anyways, yeah, I was gonna say we could do a bulk markdown or bring everything in and then find stuff that you don't want and make it unorderable just in that unorderable field. That's what it does. You could click on it and make it unorderable with one button, or you could go filter on a bunch of stuff and make it unorderable off to the side? Would she have to check every box on the side, Jeff, or can you say
Yes.
check all?
Well, yeah, she'd have to check every box.
You have
That's
to check every
interesting.
box.
I didn't go back to white. I went back to cream. I almost like it better.
That's not bad. I like it. That's fine.
There's no bulk. By unorderable, you mean inactive?
Oh, again, I'm gonna have to say be careful what you ask for. In Excel Pro, there is a tool. So we have an Oracle database, right? And in the Oracle database being proprietary, they don't give you the DBA password, but they give you this tool that lets you do some pretty scary, amazing stuff. So yes, if you wanted to do a command level change to every item. So for instance, one vendor A buys vendor B. I could go in the back end here and change everything from A to B. Boom, one statement.
Okay.
But let's stick with the bulk markdown thing, because I just want to see how could we mark all
the question would be, how do you filter, right? That would be the question. How do you filter the statement? If you want to mark everything as unorderable, what is it that I'm saying? I say set unorderable flag to 1 where what is what, right? That's the question. How would I know it's
You only get to choose one thing?
Well, no, you can write SQL, you can write it any way you want to. This is very dangerous
so
here.
give three examples. So let's say that how would you guys know though if it's not?
All right, so let's
say this is totally a joke because this isn't happening, but let's say all Carhartt Force, so Carhartt items with the name Force in the register description is being discontinued.
So I have Carhartt in there, and I have Carhartt jackets in there. So let's just say all Carhartt jackets, because I have some Carhartt jackets and pants and.
You can do that, but hold on. Let's just start simple. Well, first off, okay, whoa, right there. You see, unorderable is not set to yes, right? It's set to 0. It's a 1 or a 0. It's a checkbox, right? So 0 is not checked.
Is there a difference between unorderable and inactive? Or is that the same?
Oh, yes, very much. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So inactive is gone. So if it's inactive, it's not, you can't sell it. If like you try to sell an inactive item on the receipt, it'll say not found. Right? So so inactive is like we bought it, we sold it, it didn't do so well, we discontinued it, we're not bringing it back, we're retiring it, it's not going to show up on my screens anymore, and when it's gone.
Okay.
Right? So unorderable is the stage right before that where we're not buying it anymore, we're just trying to sell out what we have, and get rid of it so we can mark it inactive, right?
Gotcha.
Now, I'm just going to...
Go ahead.
I'm just going to pick like something like this and this. We could go find Carhartt, sure, but I don't think it matters, right? So I'm just going to say an update statement looks like this. Update the table, set the field equal 1, right? And I don't have to put return characters in here, but I'm a human being and I like return characters. It makes me happy, right? So where vend code equals Carhartt or whatever. I'm going to use the other one. Vend code, let's put an underscore in there. Code equals, I think we're using singles, PAT, right? This is cap
For
sensitive.
Patagonia. Oh yeah,
right?
It is PAT. Yep.
But what I want to point out is that we can do more than one here, right? So right, and description 1 equals men's cotton tee, right?
Or just the word cotton or anything. Could you do it that way, or does it have to be exact?
Yes, you can do it that way, but then you'd have to say contains or is like, right?
Oh, right.
There's different words.
Equal.
I'm just keeping it simple right now, right? I forgot I gotta have a quote here, and I might have to have double quotes. I don't know. So let's see what happens if I execute this, if it blows up on me. Okay, so now I'm gonna borrow this here. I'm gonna borrow this.
Description 1. Shouldn't you have a space after description space 1, or is it just description 1?
Copy.
Okay.
Hold on. So I'm gonna copy that there, and I'm gonna go down a spot, and I'm going to say select asterisk from the table invin underscore SBS, and then we're just going to add our where clause, right? So I could call those items up. That actually has got a lot more items than I thought, right?
Hmm? So this, you're developing a filter that you would use then here in the SQL statement, Jeff, and then
No, this is a SQL
something?
shell that lets you modify stuff. And all right, so let's just do this. Let's select
Like a find and replace modifier? I'm not getting it though. I'm sorry.
description 1, comma unorderable. Let's do that. So select these 2 fields from that table.
Got it. Yep.
Okay, so it set them all to unorderable, everything. As my previous command, right? If I scroll up and look at my other commands,
Oh,
that
I got it.
command
Okay.
there, that said set those to 1. Now, at this point, it's not written. If I wanted to save that and actually make them unorderable, I would have to go the final step and type in the commit command and then hit the lightning bolt, and that would write the data.
Well, do it. Go for it. It can't hurt my data. And let's go look at it then.
Wait, so would that be a one-time deal, or is that like a running script?
If you needed a running script, like, so let's say you had a field that you use to mark it. Of course, if you have a field that you're marking things with, you could have just checked them off as unorderable. But we can put that into an executable. Actually, the developer will do that for us. They'll put it into an executable, and we can schedule it to run on regular intervals. We've done it for other customers. That's not doable. That's actually
Nothing
pretty
we've
easy.
talked about. Nothing we talked about so far is like, oh, you want that? Well, you have to pay for that. That's not nothing. That's not what we're meeting.
You'll
just so you know.
Stop me and tell me at the pay point.
I'll tell you. Oh, wait a minute. That's a customization. Nothing so far is customization.
Let me get you a quote for that.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a customization, there would be a statement of work, right? There would be a statement of work that goes with it.
So you're gonna copy. I'm just gonna filter on it and see.
I'm just gonna filter on this.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and so then if you look at, we don't have unorderable on the screen, do we?
You got active, and you're just gonna right click and add a little column here, which is
so everything's designable, as you can see. You can make a mess of this, or you can do really cool stuff.
Put it above the bar. It's not like a programmer needs to change a screen. You just right click
you
and
find the field, double click it. It's above the bar. I can scroll
is
up. Is there
an above the bar limit?
No. Well, no, there isn't, but there is. So what I mean by that is that no, you can put as many items above the bar. So they're all checked off. See that? They're all checked. But if you put every field in there, when you load the screen, it's going to take a long time to load. So, that's why we have different tabs down here, right? So that one tab does one function. The price cost tab does price cost markdowns. The dates tab shows you the dates, right?
Mm-hmm. So show me again, sorry. Let's say I didn't care about UPC. How do I quickly get that off?
You don't care about UPC? Like you want UPC off the screen, like that's just to get it off the screen. I got you. So it's literally ALU. Almost everything is a right click, and you go to there's a page manager. You just go like that, page manager, and it's just as easy. I made up the word gender. I made up the word euro. I was telling you about those, right? So if or a discontinued date. So serial type, you don't care about that. That's serial numbers. Taxes, maybe you don't want to see any of this tax stuff. You just click it and it puts it below the bar. But things like fields I made up, other fields I made up were like width. I made that one up. I made up the UK. So I double click that. It puts the UK now. If I scroll up here, you'll see it. It's above the bar. And what Jeff was doing is just like move it where you want. It's literally like your screen design is, I want UK, gender, euro, and I don't care about my promotional pricing or my units per case. I'm going to apply that. And then that's my
How do you move? Sorry, can you go back to that for a second?
Yeah. So it's right click and page manager, and
so let's
put
say
it above the bar.
You want UK right below age. How do you
drag it and drop it? Drag and drop. And I'm gonna unclick 3 and and I'm going to unclick I made up weight, I made up all those. I'm going to keep discontinued date. I'm going to take case quantity off though. So that's how it should be, cities and age. So watch when I apply it, that's just going to take a second to think about it here, but then it's going to be, now the only thing is sometimes it puts the whole big mass field in there, so you have to like close it up a little bit.
But you can move them here too. If you have rights, you could just drag them left or right. You don't have to go into the screen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just like a huge spreadsheet. It's like a spreadsheet. I mean, it's super. But the thing is all those fields, like at some are uppercase and lowercase, because I'm kind of lazy about consistency there. But I threw in weight, which is just like a couple options for a word. But the gender, we actually have a tool we wrote for for selling alcohol at Yosemite National Park, I think. So so one is age, that's this one, and I also repurposed it for theme. I used to say theme, so some of the national parks like wolves and wildflowers out, things like that. But marking it with an age, then we made a tool that was just, if it says 21, ask for ID, things like that. So fields that we can create, that was a customization that Malcolm wrote for Brown. I don't know if it was like a Brown and Forman type. No, it was. I think it was for the alcohol sales at Yosemite. Just like if there's buying beer at the lodge, right? Then and Jeff, you set them up like so. When you scan the beer, it'll pop up and say type in the driver's license number, so that it's just a double check for
the birth date is. It makes them type in the birth date. And it knows the date, and it knows the system based on Windows, right? It knows the system, and it can do the math. And so you have an age limit on the item that they have to be 21. It does the math and goes, hey, you're not old enough where you are.
So these are what somebody else wanted, but a discontinued date. So there are little drop-down date fields that are more like little calendars, and I like those. So if you said, I'm going to discontinue that, I do not want. So explain discontinued, that one won't let you do it on a PO either, right? So if it's after discontinued date and I'm in a purchase order trying to order it.
Lets you mark it to be discontinued in the future. That's the whole point of it. You wouldn't mark it today. You'd mark it to be, in August, I'm going to discontinue this. That would be, so they can order it up till then, but they couldn't order it after that. Now, there's a side effect on that field that I don't like, that has to do with point of sale. So I would strongly recommend that you sell that item before you decide to use that feature. Unorderable is better because unorderable doesn't have any side effects. It stops you from it tries to stop you from selling it because it's a discontinued item, which obviously the programmers were clearly never in retail.
Right. I've had someone take it out of my hand before. I was at a Bed Bath & Beyond and they took something Christmassy out of my hand and said, sorry, I don't have this system, I can't sell to you. And I thought, really? You're not going to just make something up there, do a blank SKU?
Yeah.
But they literally wouldn't let me buy it, which was weird.
Wow.
Anyways, this one, the unorderable, then you can do it bulk. So he showed you we can do a bulk SQL statement there and even schedule that if we had to. So I think we have two ways of doing what you need for stopping. One is training the clerks ideally on the blank. There's no hot pink or red, but you could train them on it's a blank. And the second way is if we did.
Hold on, just for a second there. You said clerks. So would the sales associate?
Or not clerks. I meant. No, I'm sorry. No, I meant buyers. Yeah,
well, that's a disaster waiting to happen, is what that is.
Yeah, your clerks are all set. They can't order anything or on a special order because there's no such thing in the system as a 14 wide, right? Because it's blank when it came in on the import or when you brought it in, right? Unless you define it and specifically say there's a 14 wide, they don't have the option for doing so, right? Well, so, and we are going to try and show it the way that we're talking about, right, Jeff, like with the $199.99 or $149.99, and then.
Oh, that'll work well. That'll work fine. That'll be easy, and we'll be able to whatever they type in on the description fields that we provide for them, it'll over type and print for the customer to see. The customer will see what they want to see. The PO will show the way we want it to show. We can receive it. We're not going to receive the real description. We're not going to know what we received, right? But if we have the document at point of receiving and we know how to receive it, and then we call the customer and they pick it up and then we sell it. We make the money. We know the margin. We know the department, right? That's all we got now.
Okay. So I think we've got that. And then for the buyer, we could do this bring everything in and even fake items and then mark them as unorderable so that when they do try and what would happen when we go try and buy this? Let's go do that, Jeff, so we can see what it looks like this Patagonia item. Where's this item number here on this?
Just try and order any one of these. Well, activate it first. Okay, that item there, the ALU 2101, activate it first, and then go try and put it on a Patagonia PO.
Okay, so they have to be active and unorderable, right?
Well, if they're not active, you wouldn't buy them. They're not even available to sell, right? So if we go now to a PO, if they're inactive, you wouldn't see them normally. You've got show inactive turned on. Normally we wouldn't have that turned on. Normally we would just be seeing the active items all the time, right?
Right. So, and I went and my screens, like I say, when I design them, I design them for you guys, but they're oddball. Just know that they can look the way you want here. So, so sorry, I don't know if we do a brand new one, just something new. And then what was that item? That was
2101.
Okay, so is that on the lookup or do I do ALU?
So put Patagonia, put your vendor code in.
Oops. Oh, I'm sorry, you meant up here. So Patagonia.
Yeah, you got to put if you're putting if you're doing a PO or a receiver, you got 2101.
Is that the ALU or the lookup?
That's the ALU. That's the ALU. Well, it's the ALU or the lookup. ALU only looks at ALU. Yep.
You said, okay, so here's the alert. Unorderable item cannot be listed in a purchase order. So it's active, but it's not orderable.
Yeah.
And if we were to go to a grid to look at it and choose from a grid, it sounds like that's what they do mostly, so we should do that from a grid too, right? I mean, just to see that style, right? Sorry, just you know what I'm saying, Jeff? Like
now, you should probably take one of those items that it's unorderable and inactive and try and put that on a receipt, right? That would be the next thing to consider. Is
to show that it could be sold too, right?
Well, no. So yeah, let's just what is it? Men's cotton tee or something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just typed T. I
go ahead. No,
I'm typing
ahead.
and you're typing. No, go ahead. No, so it's cotton tee, right?
Yeah, good. That's good. Close. Probably we're gonna find it. And
Actually, I don't think
your screen would move faster if you had less fields. I'm just gonna say.
I know. So sorry. I'm actually clicked out of there. So do I have to do asterisks or do men's?
No. This field here is devoted only to that thing. So it should find men's cotton tee if it's available, right? So it should find one for sure.
I don't think I've got this set right where for the search field.
Oh no. You were so where were you in? Choose edit items or something?
I was going to choose edit items, but where do I want to be then? I'm sorry, Jeff.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But somehow you got into edit mode. That's the problem you had. A minute ago, the search wasn't executing because.
Well, I think you were grabbing the keyboard and I was.
Yeah.
I clicked.
Absolutely, there's that too. But see at the top, the edit here is available, right? So with edit available, where a minute ago it said save. If we put in men's cotton, right now.
Or just part of it, right? And then
it should find men's cotton. Well, it's not finding any. Oh.
Because are you in Patagonia right now, or? Yes.
Yeah. So most of that style is inactive. The one item that's active is unorderable, and it's restricted to only Patagonia items that say men's cotton.
Oh, that's right. So it's a bad example.
What we asked for, right?
No, that would make sense because you don't want to.
If it's inactive, it's gone. It's not sellable. It's not receivable. It's not orderable. If it's inactive, it's in the basement. It's retired. It's not coming back. But it could, but it probably isn't.
What happens if you try to receive something that's inactive? Does it prompt you to activate it?
It says not found. It's like scanning a bad barcode. It's gone.
It does ask you, like if you've inactivated it. I remember you're telling me that you find it behind a radiator a year from now, and you scan it. Does it ask you if you want to reactivate it though?
No,
Yeah.
no. Physical inventory has a mode for that, but not transactions. Now, that doesn't
Physical.
mean you couldn't just go into inventory, click show and active, find it, click activate, then you could receive it. I mean, it'd take you 2 seconds to go find it, probably, and activate it. Wouldn't be a big deal, but the transaction wouldn't do it for you.
I got it. Okay.
But in receiving, is that considered a transaction? So
Yes,
so
correct.
okay. So it
Selling,
would say not
receiving,
found. So they'd say, oh, it's
transferring.
not there, and then they'd send it to me. The stores would be like, hey, Candace, this isn't in the system, and then they'd have to go look for it. But how would I
what would be
easily
the
find it? Yeah, how do I easily find an inactive item to say, oh, yes, it is. I
Well,
just
okay, so
deactivate it.
get out of
We're
here.
good
Let's
to
just
go.
get out of here for a second. We don't
Get
care
out
about
of
this
here.
PO. That's right. Yeah. All right, sorry. Carried away here. All right, so if we go to inventory, to find an inactive item is the same as finding any item at all. Okay, so what I mean is that here in inventory, there's 2 different settings. The search functions are the same all the time. The only setting that's different is whether you're hiding or showing, right? So right here in the top, if
right.
you're set to show, if you're set to be able to show, then you're hiding, right? If you choose to show, then you're not. So now you can go back to hide mode. But then the find functions are the same. The filtered view or
So
the search bar.
here's my question. So someone in receiving in the warehouse, would they have visibility to this?
That's a security preference. Do we allow them access to these functions or not? Now, they could always show or hide, but they may not be able to activate and inactivate, right? There's no
Okay.
security switch over clicking this button, but there is a big security switch over clicking the activate and inactivate button. So I can dole
So
that
we
out
could,
to whom we want.
Okay, so we could set different levels like sales associates versus warehouse.
Why don't you show the security real
absolutely
quick?
would.
Jeff, go to security just so you can kind of see it. Really quick peek at it because it's super simple and but it's very
those
it's
are the groups
complex
that
and it.
she has. And each group
Yeah,
is, like, if I take a POS group here, just to give you a peek, because we're not going to go through all these, but in form view permissions, these are all the settings that would pertain to any group, right? So I could go down to receipts and I could decide on a receipt what a salesperson can do. Can they change the tax area? Can they switch it from my local tax area to an exempt setting, right? Can they?
And you can do that for a group or for a person and name it. Give someone a password.
Can they delete an item on a receipt? By the way, my answer would be no. They can't delete an item on the receipt. I would have them void the items instead of delete them, because voiding doesn't show up. The customer never sees it, but I get to see it. If they can delete the items, they can steal.
How is that?
Okay, so you're at lunch, I'm ringing up. I ring up 3 items. I go to tender, they pay cash. I don't print the receipt. I just count back their change old school because I'm smart enough to do it. Now, they don't ask for the receipt. So they walk out, I delete the tender, I delete the 3 items, and instead of aborting the sale, I ring the next customer up on that transaction. I just hid my audit trail, right? Of course, thieves have shown us all these things. I didn't figure that out myself. I was the guy who had to fix how they were, stealing.
I was going to show you, Jeff made a really cool report, and it's a security report, and I just want to show you what it looks like because he took. There's a secret invoice that's made every time somebody reboots the computer, and they're going to say lightning struck, or if they back out of a sale. And I love this report.
Or if they void items. Last column is voided items.
Void those items off. So here's the transaction, and Jeff told me this. He actually has caught a couple different cashiers for folks that were taking items off, and you can see a big discrepancy there. You'd see like between the number of transactions and the quantities, right, Jeff? It would be
right. So if you make a mistake on a transaction, you typically make 1 mistake on a transaction. You don't make 5. You don't void 5 items. If you're voiding 5 items on a receipt, you're voiding all the items to keep the money. And then that last column, your transaction count would be low and your item quantity count would be high. But they're not. They're all even. 10 and 10, 21 and 21, right?
But he's done this so he does like reverse, voids. he's got every time they exit POS too, if they're wearing that jacket out saying they love it and they're ripping off tags and it was, you know, $199.99, they throw $200 down and say, keep the penny, I'm out, and don't print the receipt, I'm fine, I'm never bringing this back. The cashier could think, oh, I made $200, I didn't print the receipt, and they back out of the sale. Well, if they exit POS, a secret invoice is made. If they, you know, so basically you can report on it by person, because we got it broken out by John and Mary and sysadmin there. If they pop the drawer, if they reboot, if they're doing negative item returns, you know, all of this is just a quick glimpse that can print automatically, crunch and go automatically to Dell every day if he wants to see it, like what's off today, or how did we do today, you know?
You want to look at a decent time period. If you're crunching this much data, it's going to be a week or a month. It's not going to be a day probably, but you know,
Okay.
I mean, if you look at exit POS is there for sysadmin, and this was run say for a month. If you had 12 exits in a month, what is that? One every other day? That's not even an issue.
Right. It's if a techie is doing it, you were saying, you know, you expect somebody to have a.
I would expect that they would
like
abort at least one
rebooting
or two transactions a day. But now reboot detection is different. That means they crashed Retail Pro or they actually restarted the computer. And when they came back into Retail Pro realized that a reboot had occurred and logged a reboot detection. That I would not expect to have once a day.
Right. So this is kind of just a back-end extra security report that certain people get to see, so you can kind of see what's going on and then just have an eye on it, you know, just kind of high alert.
Returns, all the returns, either mode, item or transaction, and then voids, post voids, like so who voided what transactions after. Sysadmin had 95 transactions, 2 of them were voided after the fact, as opposed to the 12 that were exited or aborted before they were completed.
I like that one. Anyway, there's a bunch of reports that we sent out, and let's talk about your reports. I want to make sure that we got to that conversation about, you know, the transfer. That was that one. So did you have questions about the transfer store summary that Jeff sent, or I don't know if we understood exactly what. I think we now know that you wanted a separate bucket of inventory for putting product in, or a good process for getting it out of there so they can't sell like a boot.
The transfer and the offline reports are totally different reports. So
right.
See, my transfer
the offline
report would have said what the destination store is. So it would have said from your slot 0 AM to store 1 this much, store 2 this much, store 3 this much, total out of what 0 was this much. Then it would have gone to store 1 and said from store 1 to back to store 0, from store 1 to 2 to I had to chop it down to make it look like it does now. That's why there's extra space on the right.
So it says out, and then it has it says out and then store out.
Well, in retail pro, in a transfer. Sorry, Jeff, I just wanted to get there so you can see a transfer just in a slip. So a slip is just like a sale. It's out. I mean, and it's a permanent history document. The slips are permanent history documents too, and they can say out from this store to this store. So Jeff was saying out and the in. So if I say new, this is just a standard transfer slip view of it right here. And we can say, here's for Whistle Workwear, we got, you know, the store 1, let's just pretend that was, or it could say Tacoma or whatever we want there as far as a code. And then the 2 store is 2. So it's going the from and the to. So it's the out. Isn't that the out, Jeff?
Yeah, and every store has an initials like AM, for instance, for a store, but it also has a numeric slot that it's living in the software. And I'm showing you both in my report. We don't have to show both, but you know.
Right. So if this is a 7.5 work boot here, and we've got the quantity, so that it's just transferring 1. So you can just, you know, print that, but it's not doing a number. Maybe I haven't put my the number on there, but I could have a sequence start. But anyway, that's as easy as a transfer. It's like ringing up a sale in a sense. It's out from this store, it's into this store, and it can print with a signature, force them to kind of sign in and sign out basically on these. If you want, that's a packing slip that would just go with that.
There's a transfer slip. So what is it? I see what I'm looking at is transfer item summary report.
Right. So that would
So
take that would take the extended value of all these slips, all these transactions, and the specification in the report I saw was by source store, not by destination store. So it came out of the source store by department, right?
Outdoor.
So bring that
I
report
think they
back
just have
up.
different.
You have
They
Yeah,
have a
let me
different
look
terminology. Oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm trying to speak to. I'm basically trying to speak to something that is not my specialty. So let me look.
That's okay. So the slips again, Jeff, or do you want me to go to slips and just reprint that one? Or?
Okay.
No.
I can see both. I see
Yeah,
the one that you guys sent me, the transfer item summary, and I'm pulling up the one that I sent you guys.
yeah, that's a good idea. Compare the two, because I think I got pretty close, but there's like there was some columns on yours off to the right that had to do with price that seemed to be the same in both columns, and I couldn't understand why there was two and what the difference was.
On this one, this is what you want to see, the transfer summary report, Jeff?
Well, so she's got this one and now, and she's comparing it to hers.
Oh,
I
got
see.
it.
This doesn't even, sorry, the one that I gave you doesn't even show who it's from. Let's see, Bellingham. Okay. Hold on, let me filter this and see who's missing should be who it's from. It looks like it's from Lacey. Bellingham, degree 4.
I just wanted to make sure we touch on trans verification too, Jeff, on how the system reconciles the slips a little bit, just and fixes, misscans or somebody scanned the wrong thing to the wrong store. I don't know if I showed this last time to you. There, or not, Candace, but this was kind of if something, you shipped 2 boots to store 5 and only one of them showed up, or you sent the wrong thing, or there's a misscan either on the scan out or the scan in, you can see that, and the system lets you kind of see what do you want to do to resolve that. I think I've already resolved all these, but let's see, where's where it asks me if I want to resolve, and sorry, Jeff, you might have to help.
There's update all, and there's update all, resolve all, and resolve. Those are the 3 levels. So there are different configurations for transferring. One configuration that Karen's showing here would involve the source store sending a document, and then that document electronically transfers to the other end as an advanced shipping notice, and then the receiving store would open the box, compare the slip that's printed with the contents. Then they would go and find their ASN, their advanced shipping notice, and they would confirm receipt of goods, basically. And that the confirmation would drop into the bottom half of the screen there. And then if they did everything right, if they dotted every I and dotted every I and crossed every T, then the update all button at the top left there would just accept the transfer as being valid. If the source and the destination stores both agree, then there's no point for me to review it, right? That's update all. Then resolve all has to do with resolution rules. So if there's a big transfer and there's one item that's short and it's 50 cents, it's not worth my person at the main office spending an hour resolving a 50-cent variance. Let's just make a rule that says the receiving store is right. Adjust it back to the source store and call it a day. That's resolve all. So if it's below a threshold, it can auto resolve, basically. And then resolve, the last one that she's clicked on here, gives you a menu of saying who's right. Make the receiving match the sending, or make the sending match the receiving, right? That's what we're talking about. So we push the goods back to the source, or we go ahead and push them into the destination store. We decide who's right. Now the bottom 2, those are the same thing, except they also mark the stuff out of stock. So the bottom 2 would not be okay for me to use unless UPS was involved and they said, hey, we lost one of the boxes. It's not coming back, it's gone. In which case I would probably adjust the target store, because I want to know if there's a pattern of UPS losing boxes with a particular location. if that makes more sense.
So and I know this isn't your area here, Candace, so we just wanted you to see that there's this sophistication here where you can set up high security and make it match, you know, they have to scan in and match on the other end, or they don't. Some people even just transfer out and they assume it's going to be in, you know, at the other side, so they don't have anything going on.
We can handle that too.
Yeah.
We can set it to auto verify, and then basically it's just automatically accepted. We just transfer it out and don't look back.
So we just want you to know there's all sorts of shades of getting this done. Basically that we don't, you know, we'll bend to how you guys want to do business. If you want to keep it super simple, and, you know, we can do that.
Yeah, we have to have some way to like adjust if the receiving store is not receiving what the transferring store says they will have.
Right. That's that switch right there is just on trans verification. It's a whole area that's just devoted to fixing something's off somewhere. So let's fix it. So if you want to resolve all of these have something, these items are different. So yeah, they could also say cost is different, but I've got them all saying items are different. But what Jeff is saying is we can have some automated stuff. So this list doesn't even show here. If these were all, you know, cost differences of 50 cents, then it would have just fixed itself, you know. And but if you want to go zero in on them, he's saying you can go in and say make the receiving match up with what I shipped out in the out slip, or make the, you know, the out slip match the receiving person, because we're going to say they're looking at it and they're right, you know. So you can fix it any way you want, say okay, and it'll do that. So that's just something we want to give you a sense of. There's a lot of sophistication on the transfers here. There's also planned transfers. So when something shows up in Tacoma, it can have a destination already set for. There's a planned transfer. It'll tell the guy receiving in Tacoma, hey, there's a plan for this to send 2 to every one of these stores. So it can pop up and even print the packing slips. So all he has to do, it's a total no-brainer, is just pull those shoes and send them to each store, 2 to each store. So it's already destined, and the buyer decides, or you can decide. You know, there's a lot of ways to do it.
If there's a pre-split in case of a short ship?
Jeff, do you know the answer to that? There's a say it one more time, Candace.
If there's a pre-split, like a predetermined split from the warehouse, and then what happens if the vendor short shipped split? How does it divvy that up?
Okay, so if the vendor short ships, are you talking about like an allocation, like a transfer? If we're only going to receive.
Yeah, we're talking about like from a purchase order, on the purchase order for that product, and let's just go into this, whatever it is. This is a shoe here that I've got. So on this purchase order, if I go to my form view here for a second and just look at it. Sorry, I didn't click yet. But I can say, here's this boot, and I want, but if you're supposed to, I was going to say, if we allocated it out to go to another location, and I got, I think I just got one here, but let's just pretend that the buyer pre-allocated this size 12 to go to store 3. So you put it in store 3, that quantity is going to go there. It's a plan, right? So you've made a transfer plan associated with this, or an allocation. Would I then generate the transfer order, Jeff, or how would I do that?
Right, so you generate a transfer order, and the settings in the transfer order, there's 3 different settings that determine how those items are actually transferred, right? There's on-hand adjust, on-hand, there's a setting that doesn't stops you from transferring anything if you don't have enough. There's a setting that transfers it anyway and lets you fix it later. And then there's something called optimize that lets you transfer the right ratio. So if you had 100 supposed to come in and 50 go here and 25 there and 25 there, then what would happen is that it would look at the ratio and say, okay, we'll put 25 in the big store and 12 and 13 in these stores, right? It would take the 50 it gets and optimize it out evenly. Now, that also would come into play with whether or not you have a real warehouse that you're receiving it in, a real, because you can't transfer it to yourself. So if the big store is the warehouse, then the big store would actually give away all the freight. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Well, they wouldn't give it away, but the big store couldn't have an allocation to itself. You can't transfer it to yourself.
Right.
Right, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that's where having a warehouse inventory would actually be super beneficial. Because I have a client in Nebraska, who they are, Corporate Edge, and they got that extra inventory for that very reason, because they were having problems with the biggest store not being in stock and all the little ones being in stock. So they put another inventory online, and they use it like a virtual inventory, where they receive everything into it, but they clear it all off by the end of the night. So they keep their warehouse in the big store, but they just receive into this other inventory, so that the allocations and everything works, which works.
Mhm. So, and I'm just thinking of, you can do this in a grid too, by the way. So here's like, it can show you what you've got where and where those things are going. So you can do it in a matrix by store. There's gray, and like I say, I like to have location off to the left there, so I should be able to flip that. Let's see, yeah. Anyway, there's lots of ways to look at it, but here's like the stores and the colors and sizes. But that's kind of a weird way to look at it, actually. So just flipping down, putting the quantity you want there. Anyway, so I was thinking, Jeff, generating a transfer order, or what would you do there? So from the purchase order, they could predetermine and make a planned transfer. So it's a no-brainer for whoever's receiving it in. And it could be, that's when you have a warehouse, though, is typically where you're receiving it in and it's spitting out to the other stores. Would you still do it that way if you have Tacoma is the main store, or you wouldn't receive it into Tacoma and then transfer it out?
In
or
a perfect world, it would be better to not receive it into Tacoma's store. Now, that doesn't mean the warehouse would actually have to have stock. If we do the Corporate Edge model, then you would receive it into a virtual warehouse, right? That is zeroed out every night, right? You receive it in there, you then auto transfer it to all the stores. Then if you're short shipped, then you don't have enough to meet the transfer requirement, then it allocates out evenly to whatever ratio you had them originally set to.
I got it. So, and then the negative or the drawback is when you go do that transfer, they can't just go grab stock from the back in Tacoma and sell it.
No, if you have a virtual inventory, so Karen, it's short shipped, it comes into the virtual inventory, and it allocates out, because you can transfer from a virtual inventory to the big store. You follow? So the big store gets its slice of the pie. It gets the ratio that it's supposed to get, and it drops into the big store, which is
so you're managing it, and then you're not having to go do a transfer from the back to the front or anything funky there, right?
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay. How is that set up?
Well, you just have an extra inventory that you would use for your receiving. You would receive everything into this inventory that's really not physically there, right? It's a place to hold the inventory while you're transferring it out to the stores, and that allows for the big store to get a transfer, because you can't transfer it yourself, but you can transfer from this virtual inventory. So everybody's on even footing. The big store is not at a disadvantage because it's also housing the freight, if you see what I mean.
There's a separate location, but what does that look like?
Well, it would look
just a separate.
Like
it's just a separate bucket of inventory. So you've got company wide. We've got zero, and you have so many in this space.
Same store, but a separate bucket.
Yes, it would be. Well, as the main office, you're both no store and every store at the same time, right? At the main office, you can be anybody you want. So at the main location, you would, yes, some of the workstations would operate in the virtual inventory, and other ones would operate in the real inventory that is both the warehouse and the store.
I mean, are you showing me where?
Well, yeah, let me show you the screen. So you're like right here, you're seeing on hand by store. I can right click and add a column here that is company, and then I can also see the store I'm in. And in the upper right hand corner here, you can see you're in store 000, which is, in this case, that's the warehouse. So I'm in the warehouse. I can make that a little bit bigger and bolder there so we can see it as far as like the quantities here. And then what we're saying is, if you wanted to flip to another store, I can just say, where's my store? Select location. So select location pops, right now I'm in the warehouse, but if I wanted to go to store 1, I can go to store 1 just like that, and I'm in store 1, and it's gonna have zeros because I got nothing and no inventory there. But it's the exact same Firefly jacket. I just have no inventory in my store one. And up in the upper left, right, you can see I'm in store one now. Physically, I am in store one. I could do anything for store one as if I'm store one, right? And then you could flip to any location you want. So you have all rights to go, you know.
Yeah,
and this is,
so
we're talking about two different. That's what I was saying, is that we're talking about two different stores, one being warehouse and one being Tacoma
So
store.
let's say
right?
I'm going to stick in here and see if I can connect the ends here, make the ends meet here, right?
okay.
So if you have in your system the big store, right, which is also the warehouse and the biggest store are one, right? And in system preferences, right, we define a down here under stores. So store one is the big store, but we also define a warehouse that is a virtual warehouse, right? So then what we would do is when we write POs, we would write all the POs and do all the receiving into this slot here. And then we would create transfers out to all the stores, including the big store, so that when a PO came in and it was allocated and we're supposed to give half to the big store and some to the little stores, then when it was short shipped though, and we went to transfer, and we say, so on the transfer order, I don't even know if you have a transfer order.
Left over in the far left, transfers. There you go.
Transfers, transfer order. So on here, when we've got an allocation, right? We've said this is the plan. The buyer said we're buying this many, and this is how I want them broken out, right? And we don't even have one here. Nice.
Sure.
And we don't even have generate slips here yet either, do we? It must be in your form view, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So
yeah, it's in the
right
middle.
there, generate slips. So what would happen is if you were short shipped, you wouldn't have enough to meet the transfer order requirement, right? Because if you're supposed to have 100 and you don't, you were short shipped, you only have 50. That's all you got. So then when you click generate slips, it's going to automatically generate all the transfers for all the product you just received, okay? And in system preferences, that setting is down here. And of course, you would want this set to not assigned. Assigned would transfer them even though you didn't get them. On hand would transfer nothing. If you don't have enough on hand to meet the transfer order requirement, don't send anything, right? But optimize would basically dole them out following the ratio of the original allocation pattern. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, when you say ratio, are you referring to percentage? What if they had quantities rather than percentage?
If you have one, then and you didn't get any, you can't get shorter shipped than one. If you got none, it's not going to send any.
Yeah, if you have two stores that have quantity of 5 and then 3 stores that have quantity of 1, like can you divvy it by not percentage but by quantity? And then what happens then if you're short shipped, if it's not by percentage?
Well, you can. It usually, in the auto transfer mode, it goes by percent to need. In other words, so if you had a big store that had 4 of 5 and you had a little store that had 0 of 1, in auto transfer mode, it would give it to the little store because it's 100% from its goal, whereas the other one's only 20% from its goal. In transfer order generation, it tries to transfer them out as evenly as possible. And I don't know what the answer would be to your question. If you had 2 set to 5 and 3 set to 1, and you had, say, 10 to give, I'm guessing each of the little stores would get their 1, and the rest would be divvied up to the other 2 as best it could.
Okay.
We'd have to go test it though. And now, as you get down further and further, I don't know. When you get down to 4, and you're basically trying to feed 5 stores, and 2 of them get 5, does it give 1 to 4 stores randomly, or does it give 2 to the bigger stores? And you may have to get personally involved in an allocation like that if that's what's going on.
But you can split by both percentage or quantity, and it will try to be fair.
It always tries to be fair as it can be, right? Now you can always. Yeah, there's an algorithm
to that. Okay.
Yeah, and I just logged a bug on it, and they just fixed it. So I was pretty thrilled to win one. Just a feather in your cap, but you still, you got to wear it proudly, right?
Right.
Dumb, but Okay.
So what would you go to even, because you've talked about that, is that formula or is that on the algorithm under the hood
No,
there?
that's hard coded in there. Well, it was favoring store 9 for some reason, and I logged it and they tested it and they said, yeah, you're right, it is, and they accepted it and put it up the chain to get fixed. I was like, whoa.
Cool. So where would you start on something like that though? Is it when you go set up an allocation pattern or actually allocate
Well,
it
an
in
allocation
a plan?
pattern is the course first level, right? That's the course allocation, and then once you have an allocation pattern, more than likely the buyer will pick a choice item or two and reallocate them along different lines for the exception items, right? But then the PO comes in and you're short shipped on one of those items, and you want to generate the transfers by clicking generate transfer because that's why you have that feature. But you don't have enough to meet the transfer requirement. That's what that setting we just looked at handles, right? If you set to optimize, it tries to do it as fairly as it can.
Okay. And so from this is a purge sorter, by the way, just a weird design purge sorter, but the allocation pattern there is one way. So if this was something like I would say like, sunblock or something that is just going to be the same for all locations, or you just don't have sizes to worry about and contend with, you could set it and name it, and it would just, you can have it just evenly split, kind of like, I'd call this, just like dealing cards, right, Jeff? I mean, this is just it'll assign X number per location. So if you had 100 items come in, you're just saying 1-to-1 ratio. This is a place to set up that kind of a ratio. And you apply a pattern, and then when it comes in, it's a no-brainer. It will just divide it up between all the stores with, equal parts going to all locations. That's one way to do it, is this allocation pattern. I've got one that I named 25, 25, 50 because I wanted it to divide up, if I got 100 items, it would say send, it's a 1-to-1 to 2 ratio. Store 2 is twice as big as store 1, so it would do 25%, 25%, and 50% to my store 2 that's the largest. You see what I mean? So name them whatever you want, 50-50 split, or so that's a pattern that you can just throw in there and
Right.
It'll do it. Super simple. So that's not allocating, which is a buyer sitting there and going through and making those decisions and kind of putting the quantities where you want them within the order itself, right? That's what we were showing earlier here, like 2 of those and 2 of those, or how many to go to each spot. You could do that line by line or in a grid for the whole style. So that's another way to allocate. So those are the 2 kind of manual ways. And then it goes to that min-max levels that Jeff was talking about. So filling up to your minimums and saying, well, there isn't really, like you said, when you say try and be fair, that's the one that would fill up to those min-max levels, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Well, we'll try and fill up, like you said, if you had 2 and 1 and 1, it would follow that ratio. So if you had 100, it would be 50, 25, 25. If you had 50, it would be 25, 12 and 12, or 12 and 13. If you only had 10, it would go to like 5 and 3 and 2, right?
Yeah, and I think what's kind of new is our stock balancing. So there's a 4th thing here that usually, I can set up min-maxes and I show people how to walk the floor and kick out a suggested purchase order. But what's really slick is that it learns from its history a little bit there. I think it's also that is where formula looks at the algorithms and it looks at the min-max levels and it looks at days of supply and all of that. And then it's going to say, don't order more. You have oodles of it at store 8, right? So do a transfer order. So how would it get to suggest the transfer order? You guys said you weren't really interested in that deeper stuff, right? Or are you, Candace?
Well, it's not that. I just think that that's not the immediate interest. I think over time I think over time that when they play with the tools, it'll be more interesting and appealing, but I think that's not a drawing point for us.
Right. You need the basics now, because going from, being all wacky with Cellmart folks, I mean, I can imagine just doing, scan out a transfer from this store to that store is kind of a blessing to
function as we've been doing at this point, and then we'll be happy. And then anything else is like a bonus. Like as we learn it, it'll be awesome. Cool. Look what I found,
Right. Well, and I'm just realizing that I've kept Jeff past his 2-hour pumpkin time, and I really I should have spoken up there. I didn't realize it was getting so late. Jeff, thank you so much for jumping in and helping us.
Not a problem.
Really appreciate it.
You know, it's always fun to work with, you know, with you guys, the clients, and get things figured out. And I think you're underestimating min-max. Simple min-max is brilliant. If you just set simple min-maxes on simple replenishment items, you know what I'm saying? That you should always have in stock. It is a wonderful thing. It's never going to work for the fashion items, but and with Carhartt, there's got to be a ton.
Yeti. Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm thinking workwear.
It makes sense.
If I come in, and I'm not a small guy, I'm 6'6".
He's
so
6'6".
If I come in and you don't have my size, I'm gonna be like pissed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard with.
Wow.
But that's the thing, is it can make these, it can even round to case packs. It's really nice, and Jeff does it in baby steps where it's like, let's start with just something, you know, like the back of your hand, like this Carhartt, you know, this area, and then he starts adding to it, so you get comfortable with it. So, you know, it does take time. That's why we do the free refresher training forever, because you might feel like you got it, but you want him to do a little more hand holding on it the next time, you know, just to make sure you've got it and can add more, you know, more styles and product. But once we get that rolling, though, that is kind of autopilot for a big chunk where it's making the purchase order and rounding to the case packs. It's just really slick. So
well, it's still buying. I mean, you still have to go and generate the PO, and you then have to review it, and you probably have to add items to it that aren't on min-max, and you might have to delete some items off that are being discontinued, and then go fix their min-max level or check the unorderable mark. I mean, it's just a different way of attacking it, right? So you have to have a schedule. You have to plan on ordering these vendors on the first week of the month, right? And those vendors on the second week. You got to have a plan. It's not really, it just goes out and finds the items that you're low on and tells you, hey, you need these, and then you got to decide, do I have enough to make an order here, right? Or am I going to roll the dice till next week?
Yeah. Right. There's still work to be done. It's not magical, but it's definitely a nice little helper.
Where's
Jeff,
the button
Jeff,
that says magically you fill in my whole store for me for free?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yes.
I want that button.
Well, is there anything that, well, I'll make a list of things that we're going to touch on next time too, but is there anything for Jeff for it? I just feel like we should let Jeff go. And if you want to hang out and go through a little bit more, I'm happy to stay on, Candace, if you have any other questions.
No, that's okay. I have to I gotta feed the kiddo, but
I heard baby in the background. They're not baby, but little one for sure. So how old is
little one and Kitty are both telling me it's time.
Okay, well thanks for hanging in there with us. So I'll send you some open spots, and I'll make a list of things that we can just kind of keep a list going of things you guys want to see, and add to it. Let me know.
I wrote down a print today, so that's great. I think anything that we have follow up on, we'll get more details on. And I'll send you guys some of the special order items. And Jeff, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate
not
it.
A problem.
If we can get this recording, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I'll convert this and send it to you. You'll have a link tomorrow on this one, so you can kind of watch it.
I don't want to see me I don't want to see anything that I said on YouTube.
No, it's a private YouTube. It only goes to Candace.
As long as it's not my face, I'm fine.
That's me too. I have tape over my monitor so that it can't even accidentally be.
Government's not getting in on your monitor.
No, just not me. I just don't want to see my own picture on the top of the screen there. So.
Or hear my own voice for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to send you
my own voice there, but.
Yeah, it is weird to hear your own voice. So I'm going to say this, and we'll send you a little private YouTube. You'll be able to watch this and scroll forward and so forth and see everything on this. So we'll send you that tomorrow, and then we'll hope to talk on Monday.
Okay, thank you both, and I'll wait for the invite for Monday, and I'll send you the special order SKU.
Sounds good. Thanks, Candace. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank
you guys. Have a good night.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye. Bye.